Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah.
97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Here we go, Tuesday edition of the Sports Bash, live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. What's up, everybody? We've got you till 6. Holy mackerel, Phillies have won the National League East. Yeah, we say holy mackerel. There was a time where I feel like people were a little nervous, but here we are. We've got, 5 games left in the season, and the Phillies have won the division. And it's the first step. You know, it's the first step in what you have to do. And you might say, well, wild card teams have won the World Series. Yeah, the first step was making the playoffs. The next step is winning the division. And, you know, it's interesting. There was a time, the Phillies have just never been challenged in this division. That's what I think is so impressive about this. They have never been in challenge. Like, you know, Atlanta wasn't challenged last year. Atlanta wasn't challenged the year before. The Phillies, there was a time where they just weren't playing very good baseball. But even through the times they weren't playing very good baseball, they've never really been challenged. In fact, the Mets being 5.5 games out right now, it's about the closest the division has been the entire season. I mean, the Phillies just kind of ran away. And even through, 162 games where you don't play your best and you're, being questioned by the fans. And look, there's a lot of things we can question about this team if you want to nitpick on a day after they win the division and say, hey, look, there's this, that, and the other thing. We're all for it because to me, winning the division is just a step. It's a small step. The big step is winning the World Series. And I wrote an article about this over at 97.3ESPN.com the other day. Is this version of the Phillies different or better from the two versions before? And if there's something different or better about this team, what is it? What is different? What is better about the 2024 Phillies? What is different or better about this team than the two that weren't able to win the division, that weren't able to win a World Series? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. That's what I thought about this weekend because, it was kind of a fait accompli that the Phillies were going to win the division. And they've already had clinched a playoff berth. So what is different? What is better about the 2024 Phillies from the 2022 team that lost to the World Series and the 2023 series that disappointingly got knocked out by the Diamondbacks in the National League Championship Series? What is different and what is better about this team? I'm interested to see what you guys see. I do have a thought on an answer here, but I do want to hear what you guys have to say when you watch this Phillies team, when you consume this Phillies product. Are they different? Are they better? Are they worse? Think about this. The 2008 Phillies won the World Series. You can make a strong argument that the 11 Phillies, the 10 Phillies, and maybe even the 9 Phillies were better than the 8 Phillies. So are the Phillies of 2024 better than the Phillies of 2023? Are the Phillies of 2024 better than the Phillies of 2022? Are they different? Are they better? Let me know. 609-403-0973 on the text board. 609-403-0973. I already see some text messages coming in. I'm interested to see this. Like, they win the division. It's a step. But, man, it feels like the vibes around this team, for a team that's got 93 wins, they're going to close in. This team's going to win 95 games most likely. Not over 100. They were on pace at one point for like 114 wins. They kind of slid off that pace somewhere after the All-Star break, but still, they're going to win 95 games. They're going to run away with this division most likely at the end of the day. I mean, who knows what the actual final count will be. Tonight's the hangover game, so we'll see who's in the lineup tonight. I'm going to try to do a prediction for the lineup based on the locker room party last night. I would imagine some of the guys that were at Xfinity Live riding the bull last night might not be in the lineup today. Marsh, Stott, Bohm. Somebody's got to play, but I would imagine that. Now, listen, this team is still trying to win home field advantage, so you can't have the full, hey, we had a rough night last night. We were hanging out and partying too late. You still got big games between now and the end. You and the Dodgers are in a lock. You're one loss. You're a half game behind them in the National League best record thing. So, look, you cannot take the foot off the gas pedal because you won your division. Is the team different? Is the team better? 609-403-0973. Mike, the difference why the Phillies won their division is because the Braves were injured all season. It's a take. It's kind of a lukewarm take, I would say. The Phillies had a lot of injuries that they persevered through. You're right. The Braves had some big injuries. Ronald Acuna, Spencer Strider, and then a couple of other guys recently got hurt. Riley. I do agree that if the Braves had been healthy all year, maybe we're still fighting tooth and nail down the stretch they come. So I don't know that that's why, the only reason why the Phillies won the division. Because, listen, they played a long stretch, 6 weeks or so, without Trey Turner. They played a stretch without Bohm. They played a stretch without Harper. They played a stretch without JT Realmuto. So the Phillies went through some of their own injury problems. They didn't have season-ending injuries like the Braves did. So, yeah, I will agree that the Braves had to go through more injuries than the Phillies did. But with the Braves, I said this at the beginning, and look, I might be wrong about this. I don't think the Braves were all that interested in winning the division this year. I really don't. I don't think it was something that they were like, we have to have because of what has happened to them the last couple of years. Now, if they didn't have all the injuries, look, they're 8 games. I think it's 8, right? What are they, 8 games back of the Phillies in terms of wins. They're 8 wins behind the Phillies. If all those guys are healthy the whole season, I don't know, are they right there neck and neck? I don't know that they're running away with this division, but maybe. I don't know. But that's definitely a take. 609-403-0973. Gil, I don't know how you feel, but what's your opinion on the thoughts of sitting some of the starters to prevent injuries and or time to heal before the playoffs? It depends. Do you value the number 1 seed or not? Because right now, you got to play your guys. If you want that number 1 home field advantage, you got to play your guys. You can't sit these guys out. You're neck and neck with the Dodgers. In fact, I would imagine it's going to go right down to the wire here on who is the best team in baseball, because the Yankees are in the mix too. They're only a game behind you. So right now it's the Dodgers at 1, the Phillies at 2, the Yankees at 3, and the Padres are 3 games out. So I would think that the Padres are not going to catch you. So really it's a 3-team race for the best record in baseball. Who gets home field advantage for the World Series? Dodgers, Phillies, Yankees. They're the 3. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. The text message guy says, disregard that question. I forgot all about home field advantage. Yeah, the home field advantage thing would kind of take the resting of the players out of the mixture. But what I will say is this. You've got the 5 games left, and your pitching rotation for those 5 games is sets up like this. Tyler Banks is going to throw tonight, so you're not getting a Walker start. Tonight was a Walker night. You're not getting the Walker night. You're getting a bullpen game. And Sanchez will pitch Wednesday. Suarez will pitch on Friday. Wheeler will pitch on Saturday, and Nola will pitch on Sunday. So why is that significant? Because the Phillies are not playing in the wild card round. They will have the entire week to reshuffle the deck and set their pitching up. So the question will become, Wheeler we know is going to pitch on the first game, which I believe will be on Saturday, October the 5th. They'll play Sunday, October the 6th. Who will pitch that game? Will it be Nola or will it be Sanchez? Think about Nola last night, brilliant again in a closeout game. His numbers in closeout situations over his career, in clinching closeout games, I mean, he's been outstanding. So the Phillies can clinch a first-round bye and home field advantage in the National League Division Series if they win tonight against the Cubs and the Brewers lose tonight. So there's still a lot to play for, to go back to that text message. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Rob Thompson gave a speech last night, and he said, look, this is a step. And then in jumped John Middleton and said, I want my bleeping trophy back. And that started the party. But here's Rob Thompson's message after winning the National League East.
When we entered the playoffs, I said it was very difficult to get here. And to win a division is even more difficult. So congratulations on that. We still got some work to do, though. Okay? We still got some work to do. We want to get that bye. It's very important to us. So I want you guys to party tonight, but be ready to come here and play tomorrow.
I want you to party tonight, but I want you to come ready to play tomorrow. Kind of a mixed message there from Rob Thompson. Go party, but come ready to play. So it sounds like some sort of a curfew situation there. But, hey, he said it's the first step, but it's not the only step. They want more. We know that. That's not new news for us. We all know the Phillies could have been a wild card, a division winner. They want to win a World Series. That was the message last night. Trey Turner, JT Realmuto. If you watch the post-game partying in the locker room, it is incumbent on this team to finish strong and beat these, win these games against the Cubs and keep pace with the Dodgers and then hopefully surpass the Dodgers. 609-403-0973. What is different? What is better about the 2024 Phillies? What do you got? 609-403-0973. Mike, home field advantage is very important against the Dodgers. Phillies are great at home, and the Dodgers don't want to play in possible chilly weather. That's a good, interesting point. You never really think about the weather in baseball. Like home field advantage in football. Oh, you got to go to the cold. You got to go to the Northeast. All that stuff. But the Dodgers do have to come and possibly play in Philadelphia. Would be it's a little chilly in October over here. And quite frankly, look, we all know the Phillies are much better at home. We all know the Phillies have a big advantage for them at home, but it didn't do anything for them last year. So keep that in mind. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. What is different? What is better? Phil says, Mike, the week off will be a great help as the Phillies are a bit banged up and the time off should help. The experiences of the last two postseasons could also help. Hopefully the hitters will learn discipline this postseason. Well, Phil, you can't, sometimes it's hard to, to try to teach an old dog new tricks. I don't know. Have we seen this team have discipline? They struck out, 19 times in, what was it, the last series against the what was the stat Pete rattled off yesterday? Pete G rattled off some stat about 19 strikeouts in the series or something like that against the Mets or something to that effect.
So in their last road trip, the 7 games, the Phillies had 81 strikeouts.
That's what it was. 7 games, 81. I thought he said 91 strikeouts. Was it 91 or 81?
The stat I have is 81.
All right. Well,
he might have gone back further than the road trip, though.
I'm not optimistic that the hitters will learn discipline this season. It's one of the big problems I've had with this team all the way through, that when we ask the question, are they better? Are they different? I don't think they're better or different offensively. I think they're the same. I think they're the same offensively. Phil went on to say, Sanchez is a big plus this year. He's pitching great, plus it seems they have a much better depth if needed. The bench has been great. Bullpen overall has been very good. What's your take on the bullpen rotation? Is Estevez your closer? That's from Phil. Thank you, Phil. Great listener and always a great texter. For me, the answer to this question, and I wrote about this at 97.3ESPN.com, what is better, what is different about this team? The one difference to me, okay, and the answer to the question could be wrapped into both. The one difference is what makes them better. What's different about this team is their bullpen is possibly the strength of this team. Possibly. I think their rotation is very good. But what makes this team different and better than the other two teams is their bullpen this year is better than their bullpen last year, and it's way better than the bullpen they had in 2022. So what's different about this team is their bullpen is significantly better than last year and the year before. Their offense, to me, listen, you had, in 2022, you had Rhys Hoskins carry you for a series. You had epic moments from Harper. You had Gene Segura, who had a big hit in the series against St. Louis. Right now, you have Bryce Harper, who I don't know that this version of Harper is better than the last two versions that we got. Is he? Bryson Stott, is this version of Bryson Stott better than last year's version of Bryson Stott? I think Trey Turner overall this year has been better than last year's Trey Turner, but you can make a strong argument that Trey Turner in August and September of last year was on a heater, unlike we've seen. I think Bohm is better than last year's version of Bohm. I think Schwarber is similar to the versions of Schwarber we've gotten. I think Castellanos, his numbers last year were better than this year, but this version of Castellanos, I think, is better so far right now entering the playoffs than last year's version of Castellanos. JT Realmuto, is this year's JT Realmuto better than the last 2 years' JT Realmuto? I don't know about that. I think he's offensively taken a step backwards. And then, of course, the Brandon Marsh, Rojas, either one of those better than the one before? I mean, Rojas maybe slightly better offensively. He made a play in center field last night that was unbelievable. That went under the radar because it looked like just a fly ball to right field, and somehow Castellanos was standing under the ball, and Rojas somehow beat him to it and caught it. It was pretty epic catch there by Rojas, but there's the layout for you. Offensively, are they better? Are they different? I don't really think so. Pitching staff, are they better? Are they different? We got Wheeler and Nola. Are they better? Are they different? They're both really good. They've both been really good. You thought you had Suarez rocking and rolling to another level early in the year. Is he better? Is he different? I hope not different. And you got Sanchez. Sanchez is different, and he's better than the year before. Your bullpen is where you're better and you're different. Estevez, Hoffman, Kerkering, Strom, that group is different. It's similar guys, but they're better. The configuration's different. Hoffman last year was more of a, Hoffman last year was what Kerkering is now. He's kind of like that 6th, 7th kind of move him around guy, but he doesn't really close the games out. Now Hoffman's kind of graduated to like the 8th and 9th. You got Estevez, you got Kerkering, you got Strom. Alvarado's a total wild card right now. 609-403-0973. Mike, attitude. The Phillies have the attitude to win it all this year, and no Kimbrel. That's from Jeff. Yeah, Kimbrel not being here, that's different, no question about it. But, do you have that guy in your bullpen that you trust? Jerry and Absecon, Mike, the Phillies are worse. Too many strikeouts, not hitting well enough. Well, that's been the problem in the past. I don't know if that makes them worse. I think that could make them different, or that could make them better, or, I don't know that they're worse than they've been in the past. I don't think that's fair. I think that's, the strikeouts have been here. That's not new. If you told me the strikeouts are a new reason, that's different. The strikeouts have been there, so that doesn't make them any different. George from Absecon, no, they're not better. Too many strikeouts and the inability to move the runners with less than 2 outs. We get a leadoff double, can't move them to third. You need to move runners. Yeah, they've got to find a way to be better at manufacturing runs. I can agree with you there. 609-403-0973. Are the Phillies better? Are they different? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Are the Phillies better? Are they different? That's where we'll start today on the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live video on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. We've got a lot to go, including NFL free agent tight end Colin Thompson from Not For Long Media, host of the Colin Thompson Show, host of the Players Point on Sirius XM NFL Radio. He's going to stop by, break down what he saw from the Eagles, what he liked, what he didn't like, the play calls. Plus, you'll hear what Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert thinks about the play calls and the coach. That's coming up later on today on the Sports Bash. We are live on a Tuesday. John McMullen at 3. Bob Wankel joins the show at 3:30 to talk a little Phils. Your text messages throughout the day, 609-403-0973. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
It's the Mike Gill.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
All right, 2:27. Welcome back. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. He is the host of the Colin Thompson Show on Not For Long Media, the Players Point on Sirius XM NFL Radio, and of course, a NFL free agent tight end, formerly of the Carolina Panthers. He joins me now. Colin Thompson is here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And if you're watching on the X platform and YouTube at Mike Gill Show, there he is, Colin Thompson in the house here on the Sports Bash on a Tuesday, as he will join us all season long for some breakdowns on what we saw in the NFL. What's going on, buddy?
Michael, it's great to be back. It's great to be chatting to everyone down there at the Jersey Shore. And what a game. What a great, it's so great. I know it's a September. It's so great. Football's back. We're starting to get in the thick of it. I'll say this to fans. Everyone pump the brakes, right? Wins are great this time of year. Losses aren't season defining. Like, you need to play well November 1st, right? I hate to say it, but your last 2 months of the season, that's where players get paid from, and that's where teams really get momentum from, right? Like, the stats are, if you're 0-3 to start the year, I get it. You got to climb out of the hole.
Well,
but
because
at the end of the day,
there's so much parity now that 0-3, you can kind of get back into the mix. There's extra playoff teams. Yeah. Teams that are 9-8 are going to probably be a playoff team, or 10-7. So, hey, listen, the league is crazy. You know, you watch a team play twice, you have an opinion, and then you see them a third time, and then you're like, wow, that team looks different all of a sudden. You know, I want to get into that with you on a couple topics, but first, obviously, the Eagles, they go on the road. I know you playing in Carolina. You went to New Orleans and played multiple times and have always told me that's probably the most difficult place you've ever played. No Lane Johnson, no Becton, no A.J. Brown. Then late in the game, no Covey and Devontae Smith. How impressive is that road win for you?
It's extremely impressive for how sloppy they played. I mean, there was a lot of situations to me where, they're jumping off sides early in the game. They false start twice. It looked like, if my notes are correct here, there was a cover zero look. They jumped off early in the game there. 2nd and 4, they jump off sides again. They got a wide receiver covering up the tight end on the line of scrimmage on 2nd and 1, moves them to 2nd and 6, right? Like Jalen Hurts, sloppy reads at times, throws down the middle. That's got to be driven in there, and the receiver needs to make that my ball or no one's ball. I'm just, going through my notes here. Like, they didn't have a ton of design runs for Jalen. Like, so they hung in there, Mike. That's the bottom line. Like, last year, I think when I joined your show weekly, and love joining you and all the people here at 97.3, it's great to be on, is they were finding ways to win close games. And then at the end, we were like, well, maybe that wasn't good. Maybe they were just getting lucky bounces. But I think when you go to New Orleans, the hardest place to play in the NFL, because it's indoors. Seattle's allowed us outdoors. Kansas City's allowed us outdoors. Philly, right? They're allowed to. How sloppy the game was and how they find a way to pull it out, really impressive to me. Jalen Carter probably was the best player on the football field. You could say Dallas Goedert too, but they have a couple gimmies for him, but that guy's so dynamic. They're not the same. Like, they could have a healthy receiving core. They can have a healthy O-line, but without Dallas Goedert, that offense doesn't go. So that's my takeaways, Mike, is sloppy play from the team. Decision-making here and there. Players have to execute. I always believe in that. But at the end of the day, sloppy play. I think Zach Baum, that guy, what a steal he was. He played for the Saints. I played against him a bunch, know his game. Him on the line of scrimmage, making plays, setting edges is great for them. They beat themselves a couple times too, Mike. Like there's outside runs and there's nobody setting the edge in like the third quarter, they're misaligned and the running back Kamara doesn't get touched till 15 yards downfield, right? So when I watched the film yesterday, I just thought in short, very sloppy, but they found a way to win.
Colin Thompson, all right, obviously a lot of talk is they went for it on fourth down, tush push, then they try to catch them off guard on the tush push. They don't get it. Sirianni gets a lot of heat. Why are you going for it? 14 seconds. Take the points. They come out of the locker room. A 10-play drive, 4th down and 3. They go for it again from the 39. They get sacked. They have a chance for more points. And then, of course, they make a decision to kick a 60-yard field goal. Obviously, a lot of people scratching their head. What say you?
Man, they're fortunate they're winning these football games, Mike. I have to say it because you saw in the playoffs last year for Detroit, Dan Campbell's decision-making at times, not taking points and being aggressive. And I love Dan, and I think Nick's a good football coach too. But at the end of the day, the aggressiveness in this sport is awesome. It's fun. You're the man if it works. Obviously, you're not if it doesn't. But you have one of the best kickers, if not the best kicker in Philadelphia Eagles history. David Akers is an unbelievable kicker. But I think you can make an argument for Jake Elliott now too, right? So, put him out there, take the points, trust your defense. Because, Mike, that defense is legitimate. And everyone's like, whoa, Colin, hey, easy. Did everybody see what the Saints did to everybody to open the season? That's not a mistake to score those points. That's not a fluke. That's not like what you're saying, Mike, where you're like, hey, I see a team 2 weeks and then all the Saints stink all of a sudden. No, the Saints are going to be a playoff football team. They are going to be. So at the end of the day, Mike, they played really well. They forced the ball down your throat there in New Orleans running the football. They stopped the run. The backers are flying everywhere. They have great defensive back play. People are going to torch you in the pass game in the NFL now. It happens. It's just happening. They got to work on the pass rush. But other than that, Mike, I'm kicking it and I'm playing defense because our defense was playing really well yesterday if I'm Nick Sirianni.
All right, so when that happens, okay, you get a play like that happens, a situation like that happens, do the players start to say, what the heck is he doing? Does that start to enter the players' minds?
I think if you're soft, if you're weak-minded and you're worried about the wrong stuff, sure. Right? At the end of the day, as a player, if you're a dude, if you're a guy who's really good football player and you're worried about what the coach is doing and if you watch Nebraska football, I'm a Matt Rule guy. If you watch Temple football, if you watched us in Carolina, the field goal block team never turned around to see if the field goal went through the end zone. Watch that when you watch Nebraska football now, folks. When the other team scores on Nebraska and they're kicking an extra point or field goal, they won't turn around because the score doesn't matter, right? It's like life. If you're wow, I just got this big bonus. What am I going to change the way I work? You can have emotion, but you can't be emotional in football. So if you're subscribing to, the players aren't playing that hard anymore because my coach is making dumb decisions or they're questioning, then the players shouldn't be in the building anyways. It's like what Pierce said with the Raiders. That's a business decision. You need to be worried about yourself because if it affects your football and your play, that's your job. You should be cut.
Yeah, that's Teddy Bruschi said something similar on the pregame the other day. So what? Now what? I think that's what Sirianni said about his Little League coach or something. But Bruschi brought up a similar point of move on, and you can't keep thinking about the mistakes or what happened before. But, people get wrapped up in, are they losing faith in the coach? Do they respect the coach? Do they want to play for the coach when those decisions backfire? When they backfire, when they work, they're great.
I think players love aggressive coaches. Players love Nick Sirianni. Players love Dan Campbell, right? They love that guy that goes for it. I think the hardest part is for a coach is to walk in that offensive meeting on Monday and say, you know what, guys, I regret not going for it there. I believe in you guys. So maybe Nick's saying, you know what, offense, I believe in you. Kellen Moore, I believe in you. That's could be the message too, right?
Well,
like,
I thought that was the theme of the game and why New Orleans. I feel like their coach was their staff, their game plan was very conservative. Not as much trust in their players. The Eagles almost too much trust. Hey, I trust you to kick a 60-yarder when maybe it's not the most prudent thing. You're up 7-6. Let's pin them back. Our defense is playing well. And, that's another thing. You've been on the sideline in this analytic era. The analytics don't tell you what the game feel is. That's what I think is a problem with the whole analytics. Like, it's 3-0. Okay, the analytics say go, but it's 3-0. Our defense, the analytics don't know if the score's 33-30 or 3-0. They're just saying go, no matter what the situation. It's 3-0. Do you take the points?
Well, right, that's the $1,000,000 question. What's the context? Where are we? Are we on the road? Are we in an indoor stadium? How good's our kicker? How good are we playing defensively? Right? There's context in everything, Mike. And to me, whether you're going to go for it or not, you have confidence in not, at the end of the day, what do you firmly believe in coach? And if you believe in my defense that day, I'm kicking it. If I say, we can't stop anybody, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all nuance. And when you're in this business or you're in any business and you're taking risk, right? You got to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to go for it. Because if not, maybe my defense is playing great. And it doesn't matter. They're not going to drive down the field anyway. So it's easy to be Monday morning quarterback. But at the end of the day, what the Eagles do have is a great short yardage offense. And I would be running the tush push and I would be running my RPO stuff.
What did you think? So, okay, let's get into that play real quick. It's 14 seconds left. It's 4th down and 1. They line up tush push. I think he thought he was going to catch them off guard and score a touchdown on that play. That's why I think because if you get the tush push and you get a yard, you're going to call timeout. There's 10 seconds left. What are you going to do? That's why I don't understand. You're going for it. To me, that play design is we're going to try to catch this team napping and see if we can get 6.
Yeah, I don't like to, I'm just not a cuteness kind of guy. I like cuteness, Mike, week 14. When we just ran tush push because we don't care. I had a guy today in the gym that is a great. I lived in Annapolis, Maryland, right? So I go to the gym. There's a guy in there that went to Nova and is a huge Eagles fan. So it's great. I have a different flair. I got guys coming up to me talking Washington Commanders. They all know I played whatever. And we sit in the sauna and we're all BS. And then I can barely get through my workout, Mike. They're hounding me. So at the end of the day, this Eagles guy is like, oh, Kelsey's gone. They can't run the tush push. I'm like, are you watching what I'm watching?
Right.
At the end of the day last year was Mailata and Landon Dickerson because they are huge. Guys, they're huge. Landon can't fit on that tractor, guys. Let me just tell you that right now. Go look at him. And at the end of the day, they're the biggest players in their position in the NFL.
Yeah.
So listen, it's a great play. Jalen Hurts is super strong. They get the backs in there and push them. I would do it till the cows come home until you stop it. No one stops it, right? It's an 85% clip. People would die for that percentage in short yardage. I am running it till week 14. Then I am running that play. That's my philosophy, though.
Real quick, if you watched 3 games so far, you paid Bryce Huff $51 million. Are you starting to get concerned that maybe that's not working?
I don't think you have a choice. He's got to go in, right? It's like a salary cap league. He's got to go. You can't trade for Hassan Reddick. Guess you could. I wonder if the Jets, you could do a swap. You could take Bryce Huff back. We'll take Hassan. Then you got to pay Hassan a bunch of money. So, I like I said, I was a Bryce Huff fan. I still am. I believe in players are going to find a way to get through. Guy was pretty dynamic with the Jets when I watched him on tape. He was a guy where you watch him on tape, you're like, I got to prepare for him. There were some guys who were like, yeah, they're good, but you can play with them. No, you're like, wow, this guy's fast off the ball. He was an in the ground, hand in the ground guy with the Jets. He's a stand-up guy here. I don't know. But eventually, he's got to do whatever he can to make himself comfortable because you got to produce.
All right, I want to get a couple NFL thoughts. Last night, Jaden Daniels arrives. He has the game. That's the game. I said all offseason, Colin, that if Jaden Daniels is this year's version of what Stroud was for that team, that Washington team could be the team that nobody really thinks about. If he can play like that, what's that Washington team's ceiling?
Well, I think their ceiling is a playoff team for sure, right? They're a wild card. They're a win the division, get in the division race situation late in the year. Like those games that happen in like Thanksgiving on, right? They end up being like Giants, Commanders, Dallas. Everybody plays each other a couple times, right? And then it all pans out. Like it's going to be. That's why for Washington, it's like we got to stay the course. We got to stay where we are. Dan Quinn's the man. I got recruited by Dan Quinn. He's a Jersey guy. Love the guy. Like, and I'm a Colin Cowherd fan. People in Philly hate him, but whatever. Colin is super smart and really articulate and is a professional. And there's a reason why he's where he is. And he always says, owner, general manager, head coach, quarterback. If you nail those 4 things, you're a really good franchise. Look at Baltimore. Look at Kansas City. Look what New England did for all those years, right? Like, again, it's not just, here's my quarterback. It's like, no, what's the infrastructure around him? Dan Quinn's awesome. Peters, the GM, comes from the Niners. We all know Harris, the owner, has done a great job with the Sixers, right? Like the Devils, like they're too trending in the franchises going the right way. So ownership's better. The GM, their roster's vastly improved. Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louva's the best player in the league. No one knows about. They signed him. Jeremy Chin was lighting people up last night. Their O-line, they went and got Biotic and Allegretti. Chiefs and Cowboys, 2 great players with the O-line. And I like their tight end room too. Like Zach's continuing to do it. He doesn't move like he used to. He's kind of like an older Jason Witten, still producing, still getting open. So, yeah, I like the team, Mike. You know why? They run the football. I was surprised with Cliff Kingsbury. I thought he was going to treat him a lot like not so fast. They're running the ball. They're getting under center, and they're doing some big boy runs. So it's good to see control the ball, play good defense. I'm happy for Dan. He's an unbelievable guy.
All right. One of your former teams made a quarterback switch. They went to Andy Dalton, and to which I have said all year long, these teams rush these quarterbacks to where it's almost not fair to the poor kids. And there's so many guys in this league right now. I say so many. There's a handful. Like, Anthony Richardson. Maybe he's very talented. He has no business starting an NFL game. It's just not fair to him nor the team. You could say that about a lot of guys. But it just shows if you just put a competent NFL player, you can win. Bryce Young right now. I'm not going to write the kid off. I feel bad for kids like this. I feel like they just get rushed into these situations. What do you think about the young quarterbacks, that just get rushed in this league? You've been around some of these guys.
Well, for me, like I'm always listening to the greats when they talk about it. Like you're hearing Tom Brady say, we should not be starting these guys. They should not be starting, period. I think there's certain situations, right? Like the receiver room in Houston, the OC in Houston, the head coach in Houston coming around C.J. Stroud. Laramie Tunsil is an unbelievable left tackle. Titus Howard's a really good right tackle. Like, that's not a bad situation to go into last year with Pierce and those guys in Houston. So, like, okay, fine. But in Carolina, and I was a part of that, man, we were rock bottom. Like, they traded away DJ Moore. They traded away Christian McCaffrey. They traded away Brian Burns. They let Robbie Anderson walk. They let Curtis Samuel walk. They let a lot of really good players go. So, it is hard in this league to do it by yourself if you're a quarterback. There's 5 guys on the planet that could go in any offense and win. It's Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, right? There's a couple guys, not many. I think Herbert's one of them, but that's about it. Everyone else needs like the talent around them. And what's the degrees of talent, right? That varies. So I feel bad for the kid. That organization, man, it's not been pretty. I'm a proud Carolina Panther player, played there 3 years. I love my time there, but it's a shame. It's a shame what's happened to that organization because things were going in the right direction. I've said it before. I don't think Matt Rule should have been fired. We didn't produce. Players didn't play well. But you see what he's done in Nebraska. You saw what he done at Temple. See where they are now, Temple. And the Baylor Bears, Baylor's, they made him pretty relevant. So I'm a firm believer in Matt. I saw it every day. And he's a Cape May guy too, so that's always helps.
All right. Well, of the results this weekend, I'll throw a couple your way and you can just pick the one that stands out. I mean, Minnesota, one of your former teams, 34-7. Tampa Bay, they lose 26-7 at home against Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback there. Carolina wins. The Baltimore-Dallas game, kind of weird there. San Francisco lost. Of some of those games, the results, which one did kind of shocked you the most?
Oh, it's a great question, Mike. I mean, the Carolina one obviously would definitely be the biggest shocker. The one I'm intrigued by the most after I went back and really watched the tape was the Ravens. They did not throw the football. Very little. I mean, I watched every play of that game and watched it over again.
Me too. Yep.
And they just lined up. They look like a college team. They are going to run read option. They're going to run counter tray. They're going to run all these different plays. They're going to flip it out to Nelson Aguilar. He made a guy miss and ran for like 60 down the sideline. But they don't have dynamic receiver plays. Zay Flowers is really good, but he's not like a number 1 A.J. Brown type guy or Nico Collins or whomever. So they are going to run the ball. They are not going to care what anybody says, and that is their new identity. That's a team to be afraid of because I think, Mike, personally, the trend I'm going to talk about on my series show tonight is this. Run the ball, stop the run. You'll be fine. Because all these teams in New Orleans, everybody running the wide zone, outside zone stuff, if you can't get the run going, the play action pass does not work. And that's what happened in New Orleans. They could not get comfortable. And that's why, to me, the defense stole the show. And if I'm Vic Fangio, he's been probably lighting them up. Trust me. That guy's a light them up kind of guy. He's old school. They've been lit up. And I guarantee you that they're going to end up carrying the torch for that football team, even though that offense has a bunch of money on it, super talented, Kellen Moore, head coach, the whole nine. So I would say the Ravens, man, I was super impressed by how they move people around. That doesn't just happen in the NFL.
All right, Colin Thompson, you can check out the Colin Thompson Show, Not For Long Media, Sirius XM. What time's that show tonight?
That is 7 to 8, Mike. 7
to 8, the Players Point. You can check that out. Sirius XM NFL Radio. And
Mike,
Tuesday.
I'm solo tonight.
Ooh.
Hour. Any advice? Let's go to the phones.
Any advice? Yeah. I'll text you. I'll send you some
Mike,
bullet.
call in. You can call in. You talk about the Eagles.
Yeah, I'll send you some bullet points while you're live. All right. You can check him out there on Sirius XM NFL Radio and Tuesdays here on the Sports Bash. All right, man. Thanks.
You're the best, Mike. Thanks, pal.
Colin Thompson, NFL free agent tight end, formerly of the Carolina Panthers. Temple tough, baby. Temple tough, in the immortal words of Andy Reid. I remember that day. I was there in the attendance when he said, he was asked a question about something and he just reeled off Temple tough. Like he just blew the question off. He was asked about a player who played at Temple for some reason. That was years ago, obviously. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform, at Mike Gill Show on YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Check us out there. Watch the show live. And, of course, coming up, John McMullen talks Eagles at 3. The coordinators spoke today. What did Vic Fangio, was he happy with his team's performance? You'll hear that coming up in the next hour on the Sports Bash.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
2:53 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform, at Mike Gill Show, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Coming up, who's hot, who's cold? Man, 14 NFL playoff teams. This has never been more difficult, man. You watched the games this weekend just like I did. Can you pick the 14 NFL playoff teams? Because I think it's pretty darn hard to figure out who's a playoff team now. 1 week you look like one week you don't. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Who's hot? Who's cold? That's coming up at 3:30 today on the Sports Bash. Coming soon to 97.3 ESPN. It is Red October. Phillies playoff baseball is back on 97.3 ESPN. Yes, you'll hear every pitch of the Phillies playoff action right here on 97.3 ESPN. I think, it's not official yet, that the Phillies will open up in the National League Division Series on Saturday, October 5th, and then they'll play Sunday, the 6th. Back-to-back days, Game 1 and Game 2, and the Eagles have a bye week. The week the Phillies will be playing in the DS, so the Phillies will get center stage. Red October is back on 97.3 ESPN. All right, coming up next hour on the Sports Bash, John McMullen. Was Vic Fangio happy with his defense's performance? That's still to come. Looks like Vic Fangio still has the fastball, or was it a 1 week wonder? It's the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video on the X platform at Mike Gill Show. Use the hashtag SB Live. Subscribe on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. By the way, Christian Pache designated for assignment. Wah, wah. All right, he started 2 playoff games for the Phillies last year in the wild card.
Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Hour 2 of the Bash. It's a football extravaganza. Vic Fangio, the gift that keeps on giving. Was he impressed with his defense? Or was it a one-week wonder? John McMullen, Birds 365, weekday mornings 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. As the coordinators spoke today, were they happy with their team's performances? I should say their units' performances. We got a lot of stuff to discuss regarding the matchup this week, too. Tampa Bay, blitz happy, Hurts against Todd Bowles. That hasn't gone so well. We'll dive into all that now and more. John McMullen is with me here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN as the Eagles coordinators speak today. And, John, let's start with Vic Fangio. He seems to be the star of the Tuesday show. Did you get the sense that he was happy with his defense's performance against New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, Vic's never going to go overboard because he's been around a long time. He knows how this goes from week to week. But, I mean, coming into that game, I think everybody was prepared for a shootout and for a significant number of points to be scored after the Eagles' defensive performance over the first 2 weeks and the Saints averaging 45.5 points a game. So, they completely shut them down. There's not much you can complain about from the Eagles and a defensive perspective in the New Orleans game. Now it's about sustaining it and about handling success. But it was a very impressive performance, really, from all 3 levels.
Yeah, obviously it was impressive, and it's funny because sometimes coaches are never happy. But I just wanted to get the sense if you thought I was kind of impressed with the job that we were able to do with this team.
You didn't go that far, but you could tell because you didn't have the normal. It's hard to criticize. It really is. Maybe the only player you can criticize is Bryce Huff. That's how good it was.
Do you get the sense that Huff is going to continue to get his snaps reduced, or do you think they're going to keep throwing him? I mean, I know they already got reduced, but do you see him getting less playing time, or is this, you said it yesterday, I thought was interesting, you got the guy signed, but the coach isn't going to give in. At some point, this seems like it's going to be something.
Yeah, it could be something at some point, depending on how he wants to handle it. But I don't think right now. I also think that the way New Orleans played took them down a little bit as far as playing time as well. So I think you'll get a natural spike just from most teams don't play that way offensively. So they were in their base defense, which is a 5-man front, far more than they typically can be because of the way New Orleans plays. A lot of 12 personnel, a lot of play action. And not a lot of teams do it as drastically as they do. So I think in some indications as you get back to most teams' default setting is more 11 personnel, and as you get back to that, you'll see a slight uptick back into where Bryce Huff was before this game. So I think this was a little bit of an outlier. And the more pass rush you need, probably the more he's going to play. But still, it's disappointing this point at this stage.
So what are some of the things they're doing, in Huff's spot? How have they kind of navigated around not playing him?
Well, he's fourth. They have, their 4-man rotation, as Vic explained today, 5 guys active, 4 guys play, and he's number 4, or he has been and it really took a drastic. So he's behind Nolan Smith, but a little bit because of all the issues defending the run. That means more Brandon Graham, who's very good at it and was very good at it in that particular game as well. Even Milton Williams a little bit outside to get a bigger body. He threw that look a few times, and that took Bryce Huff down a little bit. I think as you get more towards the heavy passing teams, I think it'll shift back. It seems pretty clear that as long as Brandon has enough gas in the tank at 36, it's going to be Sweat and Graham getting the most snaps. And then I think Huff will inch back ahead of Nolan Smith, I think. But we'll see as you get to those more pass-heavy teams. And probably starts this week with even though they're not a high-flying team, Tampa Bay, they're going to use more traditional 3 wide receiver sets, and I think that'll mean a little bit more playing time. So,
yeah, the one guy
18 to 28 or something like that.
The one guy I wanted to get your opinion on it, and whether you get a sense of is if Milton Williams they're going to find more ways to get him on the field and give him a bigger role, because it seems that he gets short bursts, but he makes the most of them.
Yeah, Milton's a good player. I mean, he's not a great player; he's just a good player. So it's a good player to have. But he gets, he's getting significant snaps inside. Now he's getting at least a little bit of work. Now, there's not many teams that play the way New Orleans does. So I'm not sure you need it as much. I do think a lot of people look past the opponent and assume it's just, they're going to go this way. But they played a certain way because they were playing New Orleans. It's not necessarily going to be the same way against Tampa Bay and other teams down the road who don't run as much heavy play action, as much, 12 personnel to run the football. So a lot of it is dependent on your opponent for that particular week. And this week, they really wanted to ramp up the run defense, not only because they were playing New Orleans, but also because of how poor they were at it the first 2 weeks. So you had that perfect storm, and that resulted in less playing time for Bryce Huff. But I don't think that's continued that way necessarily. I think it's going to change depending on the opponent on the particular week, and that's what Vic's good at.
Yeah, we're talking with John McMullen from Birds 365 weekday mornings at 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Vic Fangio talked today. He talked a lot about, by the way, Jalen Carter. I guess he acknowledged that, hey, Jalen Carter, when he's playing well, obviously, but he says it sounded like he feels like he can tell whether he's going to play well based on the practices.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it goes that far, but, I think everybody was disappointed, to be honest, including Jalen Carter himself on the first 2 weeks. And then he had the issue of being late for the team meeting. So, a lot of people have talked to him about that kind of stuff. And Vic even mentioned talking to CJ about toning things down occasionally. I don't know if that's going to work. But, I mean, if they can find the key to getting consistency, I mean, the guy who showed up in New Orleans, if that's every week from Jalen Carter, this is going to be a good defense. And I don't care what the rest of the people do because he's wrecking games. So it's going to be a good defense if he can unlock that consistency. Because he's got that kind of talent. I don't want to throw the Aaron Donald comparisons out there, but he's got the talent to wreck games. Now he's nowhere near as consistent as Aaron Donald was during his career, and that's what you're trying to get to level. You see, that was the ceiling. You see it. He's the best defensive player on the field. He's the best player on the field.
Well, I was going to say, you tweeted out, and obviously McCoy got hurt in the game. Is this they took advantage of the spot there, or was he going to wreck that game regardless of if Dermontti Dawson was playing center Sunday.
Well, McCoy's really good.
Yeah.
He's a Pro Bowl level player. I do think he was going to wreck that game no matter what. It was just one of those days, but it would have been better. It would have been easier for New Orleans, at least. They did not handle that well. And they did something, it's different coaches have different philosophies. Jeff Stoutland hates moving multiple people when somebody gets injured. Sometimes you have to. There's nothing you can do. They have a really good guard, Lucas Patrick, and they moved him to center. And then they had to put Oli Udoh in a guard. So they got worse at two spots instead of just one spot. So that's something Jeff doesn't like to do. But maybe they felt they needed to do it, just they didn't have a competent backup center. But yeah, that McCoy injury, it was the third play of the game too. So it was basically the entire game. And he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a groin injury, so that's really going to impact New Orleans. They better figure it out. But it certainly hurt them. But the Eagles lost their entire right side. They persevered better. Tyler Steen played very well. Fred Johnson held up pretty well. But they lost Mekhi Becton and Lane Johnson relatively early, not that early. I think one played 14 snaps. Lane played 18. So they missed the vast majority of the game, and the Eagles were able to persevere better.
Let's get into the offense and that thing right there, because where do we think the status, at least Becton. Let's start with Becton and Steen, because obviously Steen played pretty well. I don't know if that Kellen gave you anything today, but do they feel comfortable with saying, let's let Steen kind of take this spot? Because was he the guy they originally wanted to get that spot? So what's your mindset on that right guard spot now?
No, I think they're very happy with Mekhi Becton, and when he's back and he's ready to go, it's his job. I don't think there's any debate from that standpoint. I think, Tyler played well, but he's a backup now. It's Mekhi Becton's job, and we'll see. It's a finger. Typically, even if offensive linemen have to have surgery, they're going to wrap that thing up, put a cast on it, and play. But if you can't push off, you can't push off. Might be a week injury, 2 weeks at the most. We'll get a better indication Wednesday in practice. But it's nice to have that depth. Where Tyler Steen, I think there was a lot of when he came into the game, and he played very well against a pretty good defensive front. So that was a big positive as well in that game.
And I know I don't know how many, if you were doing a count yesterday, but I think Sirianni mentioned Fred Johnson by Fred probably 47 times yesterday. How elated were they with the way that he came in and played? And I guess the question would be if Lane had a miss this week, and Lane obviously it seemed like was in some bad. Him walking off the field around with Dom. He looked like, he absolutely looked like he was completely out of it. So if it was an elongated period for Lane, and I'm not suggesting that it is, but would Fred Johnson be the first choice to play right tackle in a 2 to 4 week situation?
Yeah, I think he would definitely be the first shot, no question about it. Then, say if he played poorly against Tampa Bay and he got a bye week and he got some time and it's going to be a multiple week thing, then you might start to think about other things. Tyler Steen moving out to right tackle, maybe something of that nature. But no, Fred would be the guy. And similar to, if you think about last year when they had some injuries and Suo Peta had to come in for Cam Jurgens, he had a bad game, and then they tried Tyler Steen, and that didn't work out in the Dallas game, and they went back to Suo, and that was a multiple week injury for Cam Jurgens at right guard when he was playing right guard. So they'll give Fred an opportunity, and if it doesn't work out well, they'll open it up to more of a competition type thing. But it would definitely be Fred's job to lose.
All right.
You hope concussion protocol is obviously different for everybody, but, Lane's got more of a history of concussions than Devontae Smith. So generally that means, he's not going to get through it quick, but I would think the hope with Lane Johnson is more of get him back after the bye.
Kellen Moore today kind of gave his insight on how Sirianni is involved in game day play calling. What's your takeaway from that dynamic? And is that normal? Is this something that's not sustainable? What do you think?
Yeah, it's normal, but I think this is a Pandora's box that Nick shouldn't have opened, and I think he was trying to protect Kellen Moore, and some people will look at that positively. I go back to the Seattle game when he tried to protect Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I mean, he tries to protect his guys, and I don't think he should have done it from the standpoint of you open up this Pandora's box, and now everybody's going to be questioning every play. Oh, that's a Nick play. That's a Kellen play. How fans are. Right now, they don't like Nick Sirianni, so every time there's a bubble screen or a smoke, oh, that's Nick Sirianni taking over the play calling. I think it was a big mistake. But, yeah, I mean, they talk about the collaborative process all the time. And most of the week, I think most people don't understand that you're not just going into the game and saying, oh, I'm going to do this and on the spur of the moment. And most of the preparation is done during the week, and you got your big play sheets and you got it broken down into, first downs, third and short, third and long, fourth downs. You have all that at your disposal, and then it becomes you're just picking what you feel in the moment is one of the best 2 or 3 plays that's going to succeed that's already on that chart. So it's not like you're pulling stuff out of your you-know-what during the game. That's what you prepare for during the week. So, probably what happened is they had that play in, 4th and short play, and they wanted to roll it out, and Nick made the nudge towards it in game. It was already in the game plan. And it becomes this thing because he's trying to protect Kellen Moore from criticism. When the bigger issue isn't the play call necessarily. I mean, the play call didn't work, but the bigger issue is the decision to go for it at that time. There's no, unless you fool them, we talked about this yesterday on the show, unless you fool them and score a touchdown, it's like a waste. It's waste because you're going to have to call a timeout, even if you get the first down. So you burn your last timeout. You might get one shot in the end zone, but they know you got to go to the end zone. You can't throw it short because the clock's going to run out. So not a lot of upside to it unless you completely fool them and score a touchdown on the actual 4th and 1. And the negative was it's not at 3rd and 1. That's it. That's fine. 4th and 1. You're done. You don't have the ball anymore. It was unsuccessful. So I don't think the play call was as bad as the decision to go for it at that particular time.
John McMullen, Birds 365, weekday mornings, 8 a.m. on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. The coordinators talked today. Kellen Moore talking about what was his breakdown of Jalen Hurts' interception there?
Yeah, it was a bad route. They got as close to saying it as possibly, and that's rare. You don't normally bring up bad route and Devontae Smith in the same sentence because he's the best route runner on the team. He's one of the best route runners in the NFL. But Kellen did admit he went as far as he's going to go. That's a route designed to get across the face of the safety. He didn't do it. He didn't break it inside as much as he should have. And then from the standpoint of that's before I get to Jalen Hurts, then I go to Kellen Moore and say, well, that's an AJ route. Maybe stick that one in your back pocket because it's also a trust route. You have to trust that receiver is going to get across the face. And Devontae didn't do it, and it ends up with an interception. So, yeah, I didn't put that one on Jalen Hurts, and I don't think the Eagles did either.
All right, so we'll obviously talk a little bit as the week goes on with John. A lot of interesting numbers. Hurts against the blitz this year. He's been much better, but the 7 interceptions, this is a team that he has struggled against. Todd Bowles has kind of had his number, so that will be a storyline, I'm sure, moving forward. Bowles, since he's joined Tampa Bay as the DC down there, has blitzed a league high 37% of the time. And I'm sure, would you imagine they're going to be sending some house at Jalen Hurts this week?
Yeah, I think this is the week. This is, it's surprisingly, because I thought they'd see more blitzing earlier, but they really haven't. And this is the week where I think it gets amped up because Todd has had success with it in the past. And, he's going to try to make him flush left as well. And that's been sort of the secret to his success, not only blitzing, but making sure as Jalen Hurts leaves the pocket, he's going left and not right, and he becomes much less effective. And I don't think anybody has done it better since he's become the Eagles starter than Tampa Bay.
All right, John's back tomorrow when Nick Sirianni starts to look at Tampa Bay. We will as well. We'll dive deeper into that. We got so much more to go on this Eagles in Tampa, which has kind of become, an interesting. They feel like they play almost every single year. Twice last year, the Eagles won down there. Was that a Monday night game?
I believe the playoff
game was definitely Monday.
I
think
they were both Monday.
And then you got a possible hurricane in the mix down there as well. So some contingency possibilities. I was talking to some of the people down in Tampa earlier today, and they said they've already got some contingency possibilities if the hurricane comes through there. So those September Florida home games, you got to keep that in the mix as well. But it's the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Tom Brady will be on the call on Fox, and of course you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll have plenty more coverage. John tomorrow morning, and I will be on at 8:20. We have already verified that. Yes, tomorrow morning you can catch me on Birds 365. All right, John, I will talk to you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Mike.
There he is, Johnny Mac, here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video on the X platform and YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Use the hashtag SB Live. So Kellen Moore today, he was asked about the play calling, and he said it's not, it's pretty normal that happens from time to time. I think John's right, though. For Sirianni being transparent about it is nice, but now you've opened up Pandora's box. Now you've made it on, well, who's making that call? And I don't think that this team needs any distractions of that level. I don't think this team needs a weekly cross-referencing of who made the calls coming up tonight at 11. Just leave it as Kellen Moore's the play caller. And I get it. You're going to ask the question, and Sirianni's going to say, look, I'm the head coach. I make the decision. Fine. I made the decision to go for it. And during the week, we went over a bunch of plays that we like in that situation, and that's what we ended up going with. You know what to say? He picked it. I picked it. That's where this thing gets a little wonky in my estimation. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Coming up on the other side here, Red October continues, and we're going to RedOctoberPhilly.com, the newsletter from Bob Wankel. We'll talk more Phillies, who, by the way, have reinstated Austin Hayes from the injured list today, and they have sent Cal Stevenson to their spring training site in Clearwater. So Stevenson is off the roster. Hayes is back. My buddy would owe me money if we had a bet. He swore up and down that Hayes would not be reinstated, and I asked him if he was using drugs, and he swore up and down that I would be wrong about this. But Hayes is back. Stevenson is gone. It was pretty obvious that Hayes was going to come back. You don't trade for a guy and then say, you know what? A mysterious injury occurred. No, he is back. He's probably going to play. We'll see. We'll talk to Bob about this. What's Hayes' role for the playoffs? Is he a platoon guy? Is he a bench guy? What's Rojas' role? Is he a platoon guy? Is he the everyday center fielder? Now the Phillies have questions. And what about Cal Stevenson? They sent him back to the minor league facility, but will he be back? Do they go with 14 on the playoff roster? That's all coming up. Bob Wankel, Red October Philly, and Crossing Broad joins me next on the Sports Bash.
You're listening to the with Mike Gill.
And it just keeps getting better.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
All right, 3:32, Sports Bash. Phillies make that move. Up is Hayes. Down is Stevenson. Red October is coming to 97.3 ESPN. Bob Wankel, RedOctoberPhilly.com is the newsletter. Crossing Broad all over the Phillies. They win the division for the first time since 2011. They are back in the playoffs. There's Bob Wankel as he joins us now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video on the X platform at Mike Gill Show, YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Use the hashtag SB Live. Back to the playoffs, Bob Wankel. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Mike? How we doing?
All right. Well, they win last night. Obviously, that clinches the division, but still work to be done here to get that number one seed. So they can't kind of just go through the motions here. First one for you. Austin Hayes is back. How do they play that now? Is Hayes and Marsh the platoon, Rojas every day? Is it a triangle? Is that something they're going to try to figure out over the last 5 days here?
I think first and foremost, you need to see how Austin Hayes responds to live game action. And it's important that he is back when he is back. I think you need to give him some extended run here over the next 5 games or final 5 games, kind of evaluate where he's at. I would have a hard time imagining, he goes on the IL and everyone sort of forgets about him, out of sight, out of mind. And it's like, is he going to be on the playoff roster? I just can't imagine unless he looks totally overwhelmed, sluggish, weak. And I don't think he will, or because I don't think he'd be back if he were those things. But unless he looks totally overmatched, I just can't imagine a world where Dave Dombrowski's big offensive trade deadline acquisition isn't part of a roster out of the chute in the postseason. So to your question, is it like a triangle? Yeah, probably. You're going to see, I think, a lot of Hayes and then you'll see Marsh in center and left and Rojas in center. None of these guys, and this has been the theme all season, none of these guys are good enough on their own in every single situation to demand every game run. They just don't.
Yeah, I'm trying to because to me, obviously Hayes hits lefties, Marsh against righties. You just platoon those. To me, I want to see if you agree or not. I value Rojas' speed and defense for a full game. And then, look, if a lefty comes in to pitch, I have Hayes that can pinch it for Marsh. And then if somebody comes up in a spot where Rojas needs to be hit for, I have other options now. I got Wilson, and we can get to some of the other options. But to me, would you rather a full game of Rojas' speed, defense, bunting, and he's hitting 250. He's not been awful. Or Marsh in center, Hayes in left, that configuration?
I cannot believe that we've arrived at this point. We've been doing these radio hits all season, and that I'm not the biggest proponent of 2024 Johan Rojas. I have always tried to say that I'm not talking about what he might be or what he could eventually be, but right now on this team, in this situation, I wish that the Phillies could do a little bit better than him in center field. But as we approach the postseason, I think we've actually worked ourselves into a spot where I'm in agreement with you. I think that you start Johan Rojas in center field, and you sort of work around the offensive shortcomings late in games. I really do think you sort of are trending in that direction at this point. You should have enough on the bench, whether it's a combination of Clemens Hayes, if he starts the game on the bench. Weston Wilson, like you have enough where you can swing Marsh between left and center as well, where I think that if you need a situational pinch hit late in a game and you need that offense, you work around it. And I think you let Rojas start.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his defense, I'd rather have his defense for 7 innings than 1 inning. For the people who would say, hey, put him into pinch run, you could try to steal a base with him, put him in as a defensive replacement. I want his defense and speed more, the whole game, more than 1 inning of the game. And that's only because he's just a better option against right-handed pitching than Hayes is. So what does Hayes do better to play him against righties?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a fair question. And again, we don't know where he's even at. He has not had a lot of run here. He's not played at the major league level in quite some time. He was not great before he went on the IL. So you have a total unknown right now when it comes to Austin Hayes. I think that what Rob has to do is be aggressive. And if you're going to start Johan Rojas in center field, I think that's perfectly fine. It might represent your best option. But if you don't like a matchup and you have an opportunity early or in the middle innings to do significant damage, say you get into the 4th or 5th inning and you say, well, that's a little bit early to be pulling the trigger on a pinch hit opportunity. I think that they need to recognize it. You get 2nd and 3rd one out and you feel like you have a good matchup on the bench, do it. Maximize the moment where you can. But otherwise, as you're filling up the lineup card, I think you probably opt for Johan Rojas in center and roll with that defense.
Bob Wankel, RedOctoberPhilly.com, Crossing Broad. Phillies, of course, they'll play. It looks like Saturday the 5th is when they'll open up in the playoffs, but they still got work to do between now and then. Bench. 13-13, do they keep the extra bat? How do they configure this lineup? And, Stevenson just got sent down. Is he did he play himself into getting pulled back up? And is he an option to actually start playoff games?
I do not believe that Cal Stevenson will start a postseason game for this team. But
that was a great reaction.
I guess crazier things have happened. I could certainly see a world where you carry the extra bat because of what we just talked about, because you're not in love with a lot of the options that you have out in left and center field. And you might really need to mix and match. You might have to burn an extra bench bat in order to get the matchup that you want late in games. So when you look at a shortened series, especially, and you feel good about what you have in your starting rotation, are you willing to roll the dice and go in with maybe one arm short in your bullpen? And if I were them, given that you don't have between your left and center field options one guy that you feel great about in every single situation, and you might have to burn that bat to get to what you want, I would strongly consider, and I would not be surprised if they went with an extra bat.
All right, Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Castellanos, Hayes, Sosa, Stubbs, Rojas. So is that our first indication? Hayes is in the lineup tonight, and he's hitting 6th.
This is an interesting lineup. The only thing I'd necessarily flag, this is not the hangover lineup that everybody thought it would be. You're getting Justin Steele tonight, left-handed pitcher for the Cubs, who's very good. I think it's notable that Edmundo Sosa is playing second base. I do wonder if
maybe Stott's hungover.
He might be. He had his UNLV football helmet on last night. He was looking good. But
I'll tell you, I said the 2 guys I would predict might not be in the lineup were Stott and Marsh. Ride the bull last night with his belt off. Marsh looked like he was having a good time.
Well, I think that part of maybe why they were having a good time is they knew that they weren't going to be in the lineup because of these matchups. I would not expect Brandon Marsh or Bryson Stott at this point to face Justin Steele, independent of getting hammered last night. And I have to say, I think when you look at the postseason, I don't know exactly how it's going to work out with Brandon Marsh. I feel like in a lot of situations he still may start against left-handed pitchers. I think that Bryson Stott has sort of worked his way out of being put his name in ink. He's in the starting lineup guy. I would not be surprised in the postseason if the Phillies see a left-handed starter that Edmundo Sosa doesn't start at second base.
Wow. So we got to that point potentially. Bob Wankel. All right. 2022 wild card lose in the World Series. 2023 wild card disappointing loss in the NLCS. Is this team better, different? When I say 2024 Phillies, how are they better or different than the two predecessors?
People won't want to hear this, but they're the exact same team. I mean, they really more or less are the exact same team on paper. Christopher Sanchez gives them maybe a little bit more rotational depth. I think you feel better about the Phillies 4 starting pitchers as opposed to previous years where it was number 3 and then kind of hold your breath on 4 and 5. And 5 doesn't matter in the postseason. So the rotation's probably a little deeper. The bullpen might be better. I would say maybe they are one arm deeper in the bullpen this season. I think that you're not running into a Craig Kimbrell situation. I know Estevez has kind of given people some anxiety late in games here, but he's overall done a pretty good job, and he's certainly an upgrade over what Craig Kimbrell was last season. So I think you're a little bit better in the bullpen, but the lineup is the lineup. This lineup's no better than it was the previous 2 years. The only thing I will say is this. And it depends if you buy intangibles, if you buy experience, if you buy into things like finishing the job and having a singular focus. Like, do you trust this team? Do you trust the mental toughness of this team? Because here's what I will offer you. And a lot of people might not. And a lot of people might just say, look, it's a matchup-based game. It's about on-field production. But when you're in that locker room last year after Game 7, and you saw the look on their faces. I mean, listen, I have not been in a ton of locker rooms or a ton of clubhouses that have been eliminated from postseason action, but I was in there last year, and I am telling you, they never saw it coming. It was almost as if they believed it was impossible that they were going to lose both of those games at home to a team like the Diamondbacks last season. And I think it meant a lot to them that by and large this front office and this ownership group gave them another opportunity to get back to this point. And I think from the moment that they were eliminated last year and given the opportunity to get back here this year, it has all been about returning to this spot. So when you and I and everyone else goes crazy in the middle of July about the Phillies losing 4 out of 5 games and it doesn't feel like they won it and it's this team of fraud and all of this stuff that we talked about all summer, I truly believe that this team never cared about any of that. The thing that they cared about was getting back to Red October, as everybody calls it, getting to this moment and finishing the job. And if you think that matters to them, and if you think that heartache can help make them learn something, be a little bit more dialed in, not take things for granted this season. If you think that gives them an extra edge, then that's how they're different.
There you go. Bob Wankel, Red October Philly. The newsletter, Red October Baseball, will be back, and Austin Hayes is back. He's hitting 6 tonight. Sosa Stubbs shaking off the cobwebs. He's behind the dish tonight. And Rojas. Now, Stubbs has got 2 things going. He's now got the new overalls. Does he have a line? Is he making money off of this? Like last year he wears the overalls. Those went viral. New overalls last night. Did you get a little sense of, I know there's a new playlist now, but the Dancing on My Own was back last night. Stubbs is getting everything out of his last couple weeks here, I think.
I would say so. I don't know what Garrett Stubbs' future holds from a baseball perspective, but if he wants to stick in the Philadelphia region, something tells me that there will be some media opportunity or some marketing opportunity or something for Garrett Stubbs to do in this town, because for a guy that only plays, a handful of games every month and really has not been all that impactful on the field, man, he's like kind of in the middle of everything. He really is a good guy too. I know people
I sat next to him at Clear Sky Cafe in Clearwater once, and at first I had no idea it was him at first. I kind of kept looking. He was sitting by himself and he barely said a word at all. He's a very small guy, like very unassuming that he would be a Major League Baseball, especially a catcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you know his junior year of college, he was at USC. Like, people don't realize this about him. Like, he didn't go to like a junior college and emerge late. He went to USC, and he was the top catcher in the nation his junior year. So, I mean, the guy can play. I think sometimes people think he's like a mascot and like won a raffle or something, or he had like a Vince Papale like trajectory to Major League Baseball.
He's just so small. Yeah, because he's so small.
Yeah.
And listen, we all understand he's the vibes guy. He you need those guys in the locker room. There's something about it. But I would imagine if this group doesn't get it done, they're going to have to start thinking about making changes somewhere. And I don't know where you make them with the contracts you have. So you might have to think about guys like him and elsewhere. Like, that's going to be an interesting thing. That's why this is such an important stretch of these 5 games to get home field and then the playoffs. Because if this playoff doesn't go the way they want, they got to find a different way.
Oh, I will just add this. I talked about, did you learn anything from last year, and the fact that it's all been about getting back to this point, and that should be plenty enough motivation. That's part of it. But I think that this team is very much aware that this is as a whole unit, this is their last opportunity to do it with this team as currently constructed. And I'm not talking about fringe players like Garrett Stubbs. I'm talking about like core lineup. This is our team. This is the primary characters. I think independent of what happens this postseason, there's going to be changes next year. I believe that, strongly believe that. Now, if they lose, I think that only accentuates some of the potential changes. But I think the Phillies have at least a few things they can do to shake things up a little bit, and I certainly think they will explore that.
Bob Wankel, RedOctoberPhilly.com. Make sure you get the newsletter for the playoff. They'll be starting 1 week from this Saturday, and you can listen to them all right here on 97.3 ESPN. And by the way, the Eagles have a bye on Sunday, so the Phillies will have the day to themselves. Woo!
No pressure, guys. No pressure.
He's Bob Wankel. We'll be talking to him throughout the playoff. Thanks, Bob.
See you, Mike.
All right, there he is, Bob Wankel, here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, we've got who's in, who's hot, who's cold, plus Adam Kaplan, Knicks Nuggets, Casey Joyner. Big show still to go here on the Sports Bash.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass f-?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
With Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Are we sure that the Washington Commanders can't win the NFC East? Are we sure? With what we've seen from the Philadelphia Eagles and the coaching gas from Nick Sirianni, the Dallas Cowboys with hot mess written all over them, the New York Giants with Brian Daboll on the hot seat and a quarterback that's off injured, are we sure that the Washington Commanders can't win that division? Because what I saw last night was a rookie quarterback that not only didn't get in the way of his team being able to have success on the road, but I saw a rookie quarterback that wanted the ball in his hands with the game on the line.
Chris Canty this morning on Sportsmanlike. Are we sure? Who's hot? Who's cold? Brought to you by Ace Hardware, Home Services, Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. The helpful team is now ready to make house calls in South Jersey. Visit them online at AceHardwareHomeservices.com to book today. Are we sure? Here's who's hot. In the East, I like the Jets. In the North, I like Baltimore. Houston in the South. Kansas City in the West. Wild card, Bills, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Excuse me, North, I got Pittsburgh to win. Baltimore to win the North. Pittsburgh is the wild card. And the other wild card is the Chargers. The East, I got the Eagles, Detroit, New Orleans, San Francisco. Wild cards, Washington, Green Bay, Minnesota. That's who's hot and who's cold. Brought to you by Ace Hardware, Home Services, Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. The helpful team can make house calls. Ace Hardware Home Services to book today.
97.3 ESPN presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I give my heart and soul to this franchise, as so many of us do.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Kaplan's here. Nothing's ever ordinary about the Philadelphia Eagles. Their seasons always are filled with drama, whether they're 14-3 or 3-14. It's always something. Let's get Adam Kaplan's take on the Eagles Saints, the situation moving forward here as he joins us for another edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Welcome back, Adam. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, Mike, it's as someone pointed out on X, take the team of the opposite that I pick. So I'm 0-3, Mike. It's funny. I'm laughing because pretty certain I've won our last 3 or 4 years. I've picked the best out of whoever's been on a pregame show. But this year, man, I'm a mush. Like, you pick the opposite of who I pick. So, yeah, I was kind of like everyone, Mike, but you have to base it on what you've seen, right? Now, but there is the play in the NFL, if you're wagering or you just have to pick games straight up, is if a good team has a really bad loss and they play a team next week who had a blowout win. There's a trend of the team that's on the road upsetting that game. Now, maybe that's why the Saints are only a 3-point favorite after what had happened to the Eagles and how the Saints have been playing. But that was one of the most remarkable games I've seen. I mean, you could certainly make the case they should have lost. The block punt. We'll get into some of Sirianni's calls, which, I'll give a little bit more context, as I've talked to some coaches around the league about it, who I've been texting with. We were just talking about some of the things that happened around the NFL. And I'll give you some context over the years, which I've gotten on situations like that. But, look, you look how shorthanded they were, Mike, but I've not seen a defense take over like that. That to me, of course, Barkley we'll talk about, but the story of the game to me is how the defense responded after really an embarrassing performance against Atlanta. Could never have seen that, Mike. It was just remarkable how well they played. Yeah, I mean, we can get into that, of course, with Adam, but, I want to get your thoughts on, I love the Barkley signing, and my reasoning was, look, you pay a guy that kind of money, it's the feature, you're going to make an offense, and this guy's going to he has dominated the offense. Now, I know A.J. Brown not there, the last game, and he gets hurt, but Barkley dominates this game, and I like the way that they are really saying, I feel like Barkley has given their run game some sort of identity that they didn't have before. Mike, and also, it's the explosive plays. Miles Sanders, by the way, Miles Sanders is pretty good for them a couple years ago. Yep. But nothing like this. Miles, it's weird. Miles had a bunch of, he led the NFL one year, and I think runs for over 20 yards. But it's kind of misleading. You have to go through the tape and look at it. But nevertheless, Miles Sanders cannot do what Saquon Barkley can do. There's no question about it. And one of the things that we're going to talk to Greg Cosell tonight, we've got our Patreon members get a chance to ask questions, and what I always do is whatever they don't ask, I ask, and I'm just the big knock, Mike, on Barkley. You probably don't know this, but this is from a league standpoint. Is he was never really been a good second level runner. Okay, if the hole's not defined for him, he's just not going to hit it. He's had a couple runs here where wow, I've not seen that before from him. And I look, you could say all you want about how great the Eagles' offensive line has been. It's been terrific, Mike, and I mean, it's unbelievable how well the right side did after the two starters go out and the backups come in and play really well. But Barkley's done some different things here, which we've not really seen from him, and it's pretty interesting. And now you talk about his contract before we move on. I do want to mention this. So former Eagles President Joe Banner and I talked before the season started. So I said to Joe, I said, listen, I get it. Barkley will do better because he's going to have a better offensive line. But with his injury history, why not invest less money and just find another back? Because the back, whoever they get is going to do well. I mean, DeAndre Swift had a great year in back of that line, right?
The Eagles made an offer, but it did not equal even close to what Chicago offered him. But why commit 12.5 a year? They can't get out of the contract until 2026. The first 2 years are fully guaranteed. I mean, why give him 25 over 2? Actually, it's 26 over 2, 26.5 million over 2. You know, why do that? Joe's like, look, it's going to turn out to be a bargain if he stays healthy. And of course, I said if. He said if. And I see what Joe's talking about. It's pretty remarkable. And look, Saquon is a game changer, and he demoralizes a defense when he has those big plays, Mike. That it's pretty significant, and he has shown also, Mike, to take on a rushing load. The rushing load's been a little bit bigger than I expected, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, and some of that could be because of the injury issues at wide receiver. Is that changing the game plan, and are they having to use Barkley more? Was this their intention?
It's a great question. You know, in my notes to you, I put kind of the injury issues at receiver really changed the game plan, because what they did, I don't have the exact number of 13 personnel, which is one receiver, one back, and 3 tight ends, but they did it a little bit, and Jack Stoll, by the way, was now signed off the Eagles actually signed him off their practice squad, so he's now on the roster. He's no longer on the practice squad. So I think, Mike, they did what they had to do. I give Kellen Moore credit. He did a great job. Boy, he's done a really nice job. But the thing we're not seeing enough of, it's my one pet peeve with Kellen Moore, and I actually brought this up really after week 2. I want to see the backs not just on checkdowns. I want to see them used on design plays. We're not seeing that. Will Shipley's not been last 2 games has not played on offense, so I don't quite understand that. So Mike, they're going to need to make up for this without. We don't know about A.J. Brown yet. He certainly will not play if he doesn't practice. So they're on a regular week here. You know, they have the week 5 bye. Let's take a look late in the week to see if A.J. Brown could get on the field. And then we'll also see if Devontae Smith could get cleared by Friday. He also cannot play without getting cleared, so he's got to practice. He's got to get on the practice field. But you notice that they have not done anything at receiver yet. They did something at tight end. I thought that was interesting. Paris Campbell, by the way, is back now on the practice squad. They have another activation if they want to, or they could sign him off of it. But they're going to have to sort of Jimmy rig this thing, Mike. They're going to have to change it up because again, if they're dead, they only have 3 healthy receivers right now. Covey was put on IR today.
Yep.
So they're going to have to change things up here.
John Ross, by the way, to the practice squad.
Yeah, and then John Ross did not have a great training camp. That's why he never. In fact, think about it, Mike. He was not even on the practice squad. I was kind of disappointed with John Ross. I thought we were going to see. Look, he's healthy. No question, he was healthy. I just didn't see the juice that he used to have, Mike. I'm not saying he can't run anymore, but we didn't see that. But just to give an example of why they brought him back and maybe someone else bring in a veteran. Kellen Moore does not run a traditional offense. It's not a West Coast offense. It's sort of a melding, and the language is different from what the Eagles have had before in terms of terminology. It's hard to bring somebody else in here, Mike, now that doesn't know the offense. It's hard to do that. I'm sure people are probably wondering about that. That's my understanding of what's going on here, but it doesn't mean they can't sign a receiver and get the guy up to speed. Now, right now, going forward here at receiver, it's Jahan Dotson, who clearly will be starting this week. It just depends on what personnel grouping they're going to have. And then Johnny Wilson's going to have to play more. He has trouble getting open on his own. He's more of a blocking receiver, which is interesting. So, and then they're going to have to get through. Paris Campbell's obviously going to have to be up this week, whether they sign him off of it or use an elevation. I mean, they're going to have to figure this out. Now, on the practice squad, they have Kyle Phillips, who I'm told with Tennessee was mainly a slot receiver. Danny Gray, formerly of the Niners, yet another former third-round pick of the Niners who the Eagles have brought in here. And then I expect them to add 1 or 2 more on the practice squad going forward. They don't have a choice. They have to. That's got to come here. So you remember, Nia Smith is on IR with a designation for return at some point, but there's no time frame on him right now to return. So Mike, they're in trouble at receiver in terms of depth. They just don't have it right now. They're going to have to do something soon.
Adam Kaplan, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast. Let's flip over to the defense and the game plan that we saw from Vic Fangio, who spoke today, obviously, and the team. I mean, really, a lot of it is Jalen Carter just absolutely wrecked the game, it looked like.
It was, and I can't wait to talk to Greg Cosell, because Greg loves it. I remember when he told us last year, when Jordan Davis, people forget about this because it's been so negative, and we'll get to Davis in a second in terms of this game, but I remember Cosell telling us, he goes, hey, you got to put it in your pregame notes. We must talk about Jordan Davis, how he's really dominating to a certain extent. Well, let's talk about Jalen Carter. He's the most talented player they have on their team other than A.J. Brown. I mean, he is unbelievably gifted. He doesn't always bring it. He did not play well at all against Atlanta. He was a homewrecker. He just, I think what happens, Mike, and it's not just Jalen Carter was terrific, but when you play so poorly against Atlanta, yet they only lost by 1, but no pass rush, which they, by the way, their edge rushers still don't have a sack, which is kind of comical, but they got plenty of pressure. That was not, the sacks, again, are individual plays, or one individual play. Pressures are more important if you talk to coaches. It's not like you're going to get 20 sacks in a game, right? But you might get 15 to 20 pressures, which makes the quarterback move or get rid of the football before he wants to. Jalen Carter is absolutely unbelievable. Penetration to the backfield at the quarterback. Quarterbacks hate it, Mike, when they can't step up in the pocket. And boy, did you see Derek Carr become captain checkdown? He became frustrated. That's Derek Carr that has frustrated me evaluating his career, Mike. And talking to people who've worked with him over the years. He doesn't want to run anymore. He hasn't run for years. Yet he's a good athlete, but Jalen Carter, number 98, was a man in this game. Not only is he, in terms of one game, grading out better than any player they've had so far this season, I don't know what more you can ask of him. I'm glad he got the message from Clint Hurt and Vic Fangio when they watched the tape. Whatever the message was, he got it. Milton Williams did well. Jordan Davis had a good game. Now, I don't know how consistent he was in the game. It wasn't just the sack, which was incredible, by the way. I've been barreling down on Carr. Carr seemed like you saw Carr barreling down. He folded. That was pretty amazing. But Carter didn't play as high as he had. When he stands up, he gets stood up, and it's very easy to move him, Mike. That didn't happen in this game.
Adam, you take a look at moving forward with this defense. You wonder if it's a 1 week thing, sustainable. Obviously McCoy went out for the Saints. I think that changed a lot there. Or did we see enough that we like where this defense is kind of going? And we know the problems with the pass rush. Do we think the defense is sustainable, what we saw on Sunday?
It's a great question. It is to this degree. The effort had to be better than it was the previous week against Atlanta for the D tackles, okay? We're talking about, remember, they run an odd man front, so Clint Hurt's group, they had to play better, and Moro Ojomo's given good. I just want to mention Moro Ojomo and Thomas Booker, who've been a nice surprise. I know they don't play a lot, and their hope is that they don't have to play a lot, obviously, that the coaches are, because it's got to be Davis, Carter, and Williams in the three-man front with the two overhangs. But it's I was just blown away. You know what I think, Mike? I believe that these guys are so pissed off about the way that they played the week before. They're so prideful. I know they're young, but remember where they played? University of Georgia. We're talking about Carter and Davis. These are guys that won a national championship. They just had to get it going. And now is it sustainable? They're just it's now Carter. I've said this about Carter. Carter could be as good as he wants. I'm not talking about Aaron Donald, but a step below that. That's how gifted this kid is. We forget. We know about the off-the-field stuff. That's why he dropped. He would have gone number 2, by the way, to the Cardinals. The Cardinals passed him on the character. But Carter is a stud talent, and Mike, he brought it. It was, and not just them. Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, by the way. Dean played well. Bond was a man again like week 1. It is sustainable, Mike, but to that level, to do it every week, obviously not. It's impossible. But how about a step below that? Yes, it absolutely is.
All right, Adam, let's take a look at the decisions from one Nick Sirianni. You might have heard this was a big story over the last 48 hours here.
Talk radio.
Talking to former players, they seem to be like, hey, we like our coach to be aggressive. You know, I followed up and saying, hey, does that bring questions in the locker room? And they say, yeah, if you're a weak-minded player, but if you're a guy who has convictions in your talent, you like the coach showing confidence in you. On the flip side, you look at New Orleans. I mean, I thought they lost the game in large part because they had no confidence in the play. I mean, they coached the game scared. Sirianni's decision-making is certainly being called out the last 2 weeks. What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it against Atlanta like everyone else did, but this week, Mike, here's the thing. On a 4th and 3, right, you got to So this is the way that a couple coaches I was texting with earlier today, we were just talking about it, and you know they don't know Sirianni, so they can't really. They know Philly's very analytical. The data, all the data gives you is percentage. That's all it tells you. You don't have to. You always use it in terms of, okay, this is what the percentages tell me. You know, if it's like 53-47, do whatever you want to do. You could, but you have to go. It's situational. How's your defense playing? Mike, the defense really can't. I mean, obviously, it's kind of like the Green Bay game, but times 3. The defense won the game for them to a certain extent. You have to look at, do you trust your defense? If you trust your defense, you kick the field goal. If you don't, you could go for it. You could do some other things, but I just think that Nick's got to take a look at it and go do it. You know, it's one thing if the game was 13-0. You go, hey, man, we got to get points here. 3 is not what we want. We want 6. Okay, let's extend the drive. Go for it. Now, the one that I don't – 60-yard field goal is such a low percentage. I get that Elliott's got a great leg, and it is also indoors. We have to mention that. It's just not something I would do. But how about what's comical is the kicker for Aubrey hit a 65-yarder, which is funny for Dallas. They still lost. But that one, I wouldn't have done it. I don't have the venom for Nick Sirianni that the fans do. Now, I also tell you, there's some coaches around the league that don't like Nick's body language. I know there's a national view of Nick that's not great. I know a couple coaches I'm pretty close with who they don't. Again, to make it clear, they don't know him. They've seen video of Nick. The Kansas City thing was brought up to me in that.
When you say body language, are you talking about like arrogance or like that he doesn't have confidence in himself?
No, not they wouldn't know the confidence.
Okay, that's what no. But people look at body language and try to read it and say, he looks like he's not confident or he's
No, nothing like that. No, this goes back a couple of years. Just the way that he handles himself. They think he's really cocky and. I guess, boy, it's been circulated with the coaches. I guess a lot of coaches are on social media. Of course, they're under a fake name. They don't use their name usually, but they see it. And both of the coaches that I spoke with today actually mentioned that. You remember the tunnel a couple years ago against Kansas City?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And that I didn't think it was a big deal, but apparently I'm not a coach, so I don't know. I'm sort of a Sirianni defender. I guess I'm limited. I don't have a problem going with. Most of the time, I really disagree with them going for it when they've done it because I know analytically what the numbers tell you. I had actually an argument with a former Eagles coach many years ago during the 2017 season when I think it was a Giants game when they went for. It wasn't the Jake Elliott field goal, something else. But I don't have access to their percentages. And it also, it's situational. As coaches always tell me, Mike, it's really where are we at in the game, Mike, and we have to remember that.
All right, Adam Kaplan, a couple more quickies with Adam here is Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. You know, we touched on, obviously, the decision-making, Barkley, some injuries there. The injuries moving forward, though, what are we looking at potentially, with Lane Johnson possibly out, with Mekhi Becton possibly out? You would imagine that they're going to go with the same two guys there. Devontae Smith possibly out, A.J. Brown possibly out, Britton Covey possibly out.
Well, Covey's out. He's on IR. So
yeah, Covey broken shoulder. He's out at least for a while.
Yeah. That'll be that's at least 6 weeks. So. With Lane, here's the thing. He's got a concussion history. The league's told me over the years the length to return to play for concussions is actually longer. It's now 6.5 to 8 days. So which means I'm putting him at best very questionable, and now he's got this injury, this history. And remember, he was throwing up. Whoever did it, was it Fox? Was it Pam Oliver? I think whoever did the game Sunday for the sideline reporter, it was Pam Oliver, said he was throwing up. So whoever it was said he threw up. So he wasn't feeling well. That's not good. Remember Darian Kennard, by the way. Darian Kennard, who was one of the backup right tackles in training camp, he is not dressed. And we know it's Fred Johnson who filled in, but did a really good job. So did Tyler Steen. That was a stunner for me, and they ran stunts at those guys, which you should do, and they held up, Mike. They did a good job, and let's give Hurts credit for. I know he had the 2 turnovers, the fumble, awful. That can't happen. The pick, that's debatable whether it's on him. But I thought Jalen held up really well. We're going to talk to Greg Cosell tonight, so I want to get Greg's thoughts on Jalen. But I thought he did a much better job this game. And he hung in there. He didn't bail. I've been on him about bailing for 2 years. He's really had this bad habit, Mike, of rolling to his right without pressure, which is by the way, very coachable. But the guy's got to do his job the right way. I thought Jalen really hung in there for the most part. Did a good job.
All right, we've got plenty more this week as they get ready for the blitz-happy Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've had problems with Tampa. The blitz has been bothering them. Todd Bowles has bothered them. We'll break that down on Friday's edition of Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan. Mosher tomorrow, Andrew on Thursday. And, of course, you can check out the Inside the Birds podcast wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget all of their content on the YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. Adam Kaplan here on a Football at 4 Tuesday. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, there he goes. Adam Kaplan. Oh, man, we've got some interesting breakdowns in case the injuries occur, okay? Not occur. They're here. If you're playing a game without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, you're up the creek without a paddle in that spot. I don't know. You can't really do anything outside of playing it really simple. Dotson, Johnny Wilson, and then possibly you got to go to the practice squad with Paris Campbell, who had a catch in the game the other night, and now John Ross is up on the practice squad. So, man, you have some big problems at wide receiver.
And don't forget, the Eagles have already used Grant Calcaterra as a slot receiver at times, so you may be calling up Paris Campbell and John Ross to be active for game day, but they might not be the main guys on the field in some of those situations.
No, I mean, and you might see a lot more situations where there's only 2 receivers on the field, and maybe they go, a lot more double tight end and stuff like that and simplify
also,
things.
Remember week 1, they ran that pony package where they had both Barkley and Shipley in the backfield. They could always go that route too.
Yeah, you can simplify things. You definitely can simplify things, which could make it tougher on the defense to say, hey, I don't know what this team is going to pull out against us.
Right,
but
might be like a Trojan horse, like you're going down there and the Bucs are expecting one thing and they're like, wait a minute, who's on the field? I don't even know half these guys.
All right, coming up, Knicks Nuggets on the way. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live video on the X platform and YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Use the hashtag SB Live. Knicks Nuggets are on the way. He was down in New Orleans and got a chance to watch the game inside the dome. How loud was it in there? How many Eagles fans were down there checking it out? By the way, tomorrow on the Sports Bash at this time, we'll be talking to Mike Greenberg. We'll get some takes from him on what he thinks about Nick Sirianni. That's tomorrow at this time on the Sports Bash. But coming up next, Nick Earnshaw is here with another edition of Knicks Nuggets on the Sports Bash.
Burrow, we have the perfect.
Here in America, work is in trouble. We've offshored our manufacturing, sent away good jobs, and lost so much ability to make things. American Giant is pushing back against that tide. They make high-quality clothing for a summer wardrobe you'll love, all made right here in the USA. Support America's workers and get 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code STAPLE20. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com, code STAPLE20.
We're sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
4:31 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. This hour of the show is brought to you by Jersey Cal, a great place for the family to hang out and eat ice cream. They're open every day, noon to 10 in Northfield and Brigantine. Ice cream is a year-round thing at Jersey Cal. What's not a year-round thing is Red October. It's 1 month, and we're getting it soon on 97.3 ESPN. But right now we're getting Knicks Nuggets, and they're brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. And, of course, we were there live yesterday. And right now, Nick wasn't there yesterday because he was being diverted from New Orleans to Tampa. And now he is back for another edition of Nick's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash. What's up, Nick?
Glad to be back, Mike. Glad to be back. And, yes, I was in Tampa yesterday from New Orleans. Went to the New Orleans Saints game this week with the Eagles. Had a great time. My brother was very upset. He's a Saints fan. In case anyone wanted to know, he was pretty upset that they lost. It was hysterical. But we go to Tampa. I can't lie, Mike. It did cross my mind. Maybe I check into a hotel. They play there this week. Unfortunately, though, there's a hurricane on the way, so that could mess everything up.
Yeah, I heard that. But I think you should be all right for the weekend. You should have done it. You should have just stayed down there. You're 1-0 on the road this year. You should have stayed and tried to make it 2-0.
Yeah, I've been much better going to see Philadelphia teams on the road than when I go to like Citizens Bank Park or the Wells Fargo Center or something. It seems like they lose every time I go sit up in Nicky Nosebleeds, and then I sit down low, have good seats on an away stadium, and they win. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. That's how it's been this year. So maybe I should just go to the road playoff games when Red October comes around.
I like it. Nicky Nosebleeds. There's a new name for it. Forget the Nuggets. Yeah. It's Nicky Nosebleeds.
Yeah, we were so 2 weeks ago in the locker room, we were going down every single nickname that we've had on either Nuggets or on the locker, whatever show that I pop up on. There's a ton. There was about like 8 of them that we came up with. It was insane. I didn't realize I had that many nicknames, but we're on the Nuggets right now, so we got to get into it. Red October is going to be upon us, Mike Gill. Phillies are NL East champs. They win it last night. What an incredible game. We would have liked to see them maybe celebrate on the New York Mets field, at Citi Field. That would have been fantastic. But they get it done at home at Citizens Bank Park against the Cubs. Now, the Phillies, Mike, haven't won since 2011. Haven't won the division since 2011. Now, I wanted to go through a couple of things, give you a couple of nuggets of what was going on in 2011 around that time. That was the royal wedding. Oprah's final episode was that year. Harry Potter's last movie was that year as well. Microsoft introduced Office 365. We were only at the iPhone 4S, and Angry Birds was the game of the year. Ben Francisco was a Philadelphia Philly as well. Hunter Pence was a Philadelphia Philly that year. It's been a long time coming since this Phillies team and this Phillies organization has won the NL East. That's just some of the things that was going on in 2011, Mike.
Well, the organization was a lot different then. We talked, they talked about it last night. Like, think about the locker room. You had Howard and Utley and Rollins and Hamels and, all these great Phillies who are now on the Wall of Fame. Their careers are over. Except for Ryan Howard, who had an at-bat the other night for the Savannah Bananas. He struck out on 3 pitches. That being said, there was 4 Phillies in that game the other night. Howard, Victorino, Joe Blanton, and 61-year-old Jamie Moyer got someone to ground out in the game. So it was a lot of fun, the Savannah Bananas. But that's you got a 61-year-old guy who was on the last, I don't know if he was on the 2011 division team. I don't think he was on that team. But no, things have changed and, they got that step. But the big step is winning the World Series. We keep asking the question. Is this team better? Are they different from the 2 teams that have failed? And I don't know that they are either better or different. It's a lot of the same, and is that good enough?
Yeah, it's very similar, right? To previous seasons, essentially the same teams overall from the past 2 years. Listen, this is a team, remember, 2022, now they've struggled, right? Like the summer, they went through that long stretch where they were struggling. It feels like they haven't been like hot lately, like they haven't been going into the playoffs, scorching hot, winning all these games, right? But we have to remember, 2022, this team limped in the playoffs. They barely got in and then caught fire in that wild card round. Now you're trying to get that first or second seed so you have that bye and you don't have to worry about the wild card round, but they can catch fire. If they're playing at home and they have all this home field advantage, I know what happened last year, but this team loves playing at the bank. They can get that home field advantage and stick it out these next couple of games, hold where they're at. I think they'll be in good shape because you want to play at home. That's a big, big advantage. Even though it fell apart last year, I think they still need that to happen this year.
Well, I'll tell you, they're going with the lineup tonight. They're not hungover. They're going to try to win tonight. Austin Hayes is back, by the way, and he's in the number 6 spot in the lineup. I think that's an interesting storyline to watch. What they are going to do with Austin Hayes moving forward, is it going to be a Hayes-Marsh platoon in left, or is it going to be a Marsh-Rojas platoon in center? That's going to be pretty interesting to see, but they're going tonight. It's not the backups. They're not saying, hey, go out and get blasted and have a blast and we're going to play the backups tonight. No, they got their normal lineup in there tonight because they're trying. They know they still have more steps to go this year.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they utilize Austin Hayes, especially coming off injury, right? Like, where are you going to plug him into the lineup? Do you want to take Rojas and his glove out of the lineup? He's been better offensively. He's been fine as the season's progressed. So I don't know if you want to pull Rojas out. Brandon Marsh, I think they're going to stick with their guns and go left field, Marsh, Hayes a little bit. But if Hayes continues to struggle, you're going to have to just keep Marsh out there at this point. So I think for the Phillies, keep with what's been working, right? What has worked? Austin Hayes hasn't really been here. I think Marsh, he's been there, done that before. He's come up with some big hits and big postseason moments. So I wouldn't be that upset if they keep Marsh in the lineup.
Well, I'll tell you this. Hayes hitting in the 6 hole tonight is an interesting story for me. I mean, because he's hitting 6 tonight. And is that where he's going to hit? I mean, he's been hitting 9th generally, but he has not hit right-handed pitching very well. Have the Phillies already made the decision that he's just going to hit in that spot, and Marsh will hit there when it's a right-handed pitcher? So there's 5 games left, but still questions to be answered. I'm a proponent of a Marsh-Hayes platoon in left and Rojas playing every day in center field.
Yeah, at this point, I kind of want to leave Rojas out there. That glove is massive to have that in center field and make big catches in the postseason. And we saw Brandon Marsh drop a ball last night. I mean, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but he did drop a ball last night. Can't have that in the postseason. I know he's been a good defender overall, but that can't happen. So that can't happen.
Well, I will say this. To me, if I'm going to, let's say I play Marsh in center and Hayes in left, and I'm going to bat Hayes in the 9 hole. To me, I might as well just play Rojas in center and Marsh in left, because I'll take the speed and the defense of Rojas in the 9 hole over Hayes in the 9 hole. To me, Hayes doesn't offer anything in the 9 hole. He's a lesser defender and doesn't offer the ability to steal a base or beat out an infield single, or if a ball gets into the corner, get a triple. I like the intangibles that in the 9 hole that Rojas offers over the intangibles in the 9 hole that Hayes offers. And then I have Hayes, if they bring a tough lefty in to face Marsh, I have Hayes, I can pinch hit for Marsh and seamlessly change that. I'd rather that move than somebody would say, well, you can use Rojas for a defensive replacement or to steal a bait. That might never come up. But I'll take his defense for the whole game over 1 inning.
Right, exactly. If he can save some runs defensively on some pretty hard hit balls in the gap, he can cover gap to gap. That's what you want defensively. And maybe he could get a bunt down. Like, if you need Rojas to get a bunt down, get a hit, move a guy over, play a little small ball at times, because that can happen during the postseason. It gets wonky. We know how those games turn out. I would rather have Rojas in there than Hayes. I'm with you. The Hayes trade just made 0 sense to me. It just really hasn't worked out that much, especially with him getting hurt. I want to see Rojas out there for sure. I am with you on that. Now, you mentioned, the hangover lineup today. Most of them are playing. Most of the starters are in today. Alec Bohm, a big one. He usually has a pretty good time in the locker room after the game. How about John Middleton last night? Nugget number 2. John Middleton gets the party started. That was fantastic. He wants his bleeping trophy back. That was amazing. But, Mike, I noticed the playlist that's been going around, they got it from some local guys in Philly, local DJ. Garrett Stubbs got it, the mix that they had. But I got to say, I saw Nick Castellanos and a couple of Phillies when Dancing on My Own came on. I'm just saying, they were playing it and having a good time. They played it in the stadium after the win as well, and people seem to enjoy it. Stop with the bad vibes, people, on social media, too. I can't take it anymore, Mike. The song is meant for this team. It doesn't have to be as overbearing as it was in the past, okay? But you still got to play it. It still has been played in the locker room. They're still singing it, having a good time. It doesn't have to be the entire theme of the postseason, but we can have an ode to this era of Phillies baseball with this song. Hashtag bring it back, Mike.
I don't think you're going to get it back full time. I think you might get it here and there. They had a whole article today in the newspaper about the playlist. They got a local DJ that put a playlist together for them. So you can go, I guess, to Spotify and find it and put it together. They got a playlist that has 30 songs on the track list. They've got Dancing on My Own is number 4 on that track list. You got the Phillies mix intro, Funky Town. Apparently they made all of them very, none of them are like the regular songs, I guess. They're just kind of all kind of like there's different versions of all different genres of song. But Dancing on My Own is on the track list, track number 4.
That's a solid place because you can't start off with Dancing on My Own. You can't walk into the clubhouse, celebrate, have a good time with Dancing on My Own. That's got to come a little bit later, and everyone's got to enjoy it. The fans were singing it after the game where they're playing in the ballpark. They played it in the clubhouse. The mix is great. It's like a DJ mix. There was like drops in there of different voiceovers from different people. I'm sure you can find that on social media. I'm not going to comment too further on that, but there's some good songs. It's like a DJ mix, like you're at a club, essentially. It was literally a clubhouse last night.
Yeah, well, one of the tracks, number 6, is Take Me Home, Country Road, plus Dixie Dan to Light, and I Won't Back Down. It's a little trio, a little mix there. So Take Me Home, Country Roads. I have a soft spot for that one, makes the list. So we got all that. You heard last night, Sunshine, that's in there. You can check out the list all over different places, but 30 songs on the track list. I don't know where Dancing on My Own is going to fit, but it might have a little bit of a role. We'll see. They played it last night. Everybody was singing it. I don't know if the Phillies are. No, look, I went to a playoff game last year, and when they won the game, it was the game that Stott hit the grand slam. The song was on. The whole place stayed. They're singing it like crazy. Yeah, it gives you the vibes, but a lot of people think it's losing vibes.
It's not a loser song. It's just not a loser song. This team was losing for years and years. They went to the playoffs with this song. They went to a World Series with this song. I understand they lost the World Series, but they are a winning baseball team now. This is not a loser song. It's just not. And it's a good vibe. It's the defining song of this era of Phillies baseball. Like you said, it could be a part-time song now. Doesn't have to be played after every game. Doesn't have to be overbearing. We don't have to overdo it. But we play it here and there when they do a good job throughout the playoffs. If they go on a little bit of a run here, I think it plays a small role, okay? It's not a loser song. Bring it back. I'm with it. I'm glad it's on the playlist. It's in that DJ mix. They were singing it last night. I'm all in on Dancing with My Own, Mike. All in on it. All right, Nugget 3. Got to move on to the Eagles now. All right, in New Orleans, that was a game. 3-0 all the way up till the fourth quarter. I mean, what a snooze fest to go to all the way down, flying down, staying in hotels, going on Bourbon Street. We go down to a 3-0 game till the fourth quarter. That's when it got interesting. But I got to talk about Nick Sirianni a little bit here, Mike. The fourth down decision making, I texted you about this. What are we doing on fourth down? I mean, the entire stadium, that were Eagles fans. There was a lot of Eagles fans down there, all in like unison. Were saying, why are you going for it? The multiple times they went for it. Now, the first one that they went for early on in the game, I don't really have a problem with that one as much. It's the one before the half that was really frustrating, Mike. Your fourth down, the game is like your defense is playing well. You're struggling to get points. You tie it up before the half. That helps you out a little bit. I am frustrated with the fourth down. Do you think Sirianni learns from this? I mean, he has to, right, from this game and how much he's been struggling on these calls.
There's two ways to look at this. Am I an old school curmudgeon that says, like, you know, it's 1995 and I got to do it? Or do I say, hey, he's got trust in his players and he's aggressive and that's what, you know, ultimately, how did they win a Super Bowl?
I know, by being aggressive. That's why I didn't. The first time they went for it in the game, I didn't mind it. I was fine with that. They were in the red zone, fine. But when you're down 3-0, you're struggling for points, you turn the ball over twice, you can go in the half, tie it up against the same team that's been putting up 40 points. There's a difference between being aggressive
now,
and just
see,
being
I would have kicked the field goal the first time. I may have said go for it the second time. The 60-yard field goal, I don't need a 60-yard field goal try. Listen, I have Jake Elliott on my fantasy team. I was cheering for the 60-yard field goal because I get 8 points on the field goal of 60 yards there. But that being said, the first one I would have kicked. The second two, I probably would have punted on the one, and I would have kicked the field goal on the second one. There's all different feels and different vibes. But we were talking to Colin Thompson earlier. You know, he played in the league. We didn't. And he said as a player, you like when your coach is aggressive. That shows confidence in you, and the players believe it's the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and the O's. So to them, they're saying, great, he trusts us. Let's go for it. Let's get this thing. Let's justify that he showed trust in us. Look, I get it. He's going to be criticized for these calls. And sometimes it's a little overboard. I do agree. I think the first one was overboard. I'll blame him and say he was too aggressive on, it just didn't make sense. It's 4th and 1 with 14 seconds left. Kick the field goal, get the points, and then you get the ball back at halftime. Read the room. It's 3-0. There's no reason to be aggressive in that spot. And I said this yesterday, and you weren't on yesterday for the Nuggets, so I'll say it. I think in deep down, he thought he was going to score a touchdown, catch them off guard by lining up for the tush push. He was going to get that line mucked up in there and then run a sweep, hit that corner, and pay dirt it because they weren't ready for it. And give New Orleans credit. They sniffed it out.
They did. I just think sometimes he's doing it a little too much. I am all for aggression. Don't get me wrong. I love the aggressiveness sometimes, but sometimes it's overdoing it. You're coming off the loss in Atlanta where you blew that game. You're in a tight game here. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of a feel and not worry about the analytics or anything like that. I like that he trusts the players, but it didn't work out the first time in the game. When he's doing it at the half, that's when, right before the half, that's the one he should have kicked the field goal. You want to go in with points.
Agreed.
You don't want to leave that many points on the board. The 60-yard field goal, I didn't love it. That one I might have wanted to go for it a little bit more than going for the field goal there. But the one before the half is really what was frustrating. That call was, I thought, pure insanity because you're leaving points on the board right before the half, and you're getting the ball back after the half. So I thought that could have had some momentum going into the second half. But you know, I think maybe there could be a question: is he overcompensated because he's not as involved, or he kind of is involved with the offense as much as he was last year? I don't know. That's just a theory that could be thrown out there.
Yep, and they talked about that today. Kellen Moore said it's not crazy that there's a guy who, you know, when he's been a play caller in the past that has interjected with the play calling. I don't like the way Sirianni said, I called it, blame me, and the week before he said, well, he calls the plays. I mean, so you kind of blurred the lines there, and you don't need the lines being blurred here. We don't need that every single week when that play. You know, it's funny, during the broadcast, if you were listening, you were in the stadium, but Joe Davis and Greg Olson, they kept saying, oh, man, here comes another decision for him. It just felt like all these decisions kept coming up. 4th down, what are you going to do? You going to kick or punt? You don't want it every week where you're going to have to answer for those decisions.
Yeah, it's every single week. So far this season, he's having these big decisions. He's had to answer for them. And some of the play calling, like you mentioned, Kellen Moore spoke about it today. So we're going to see how it shakes out, if he's going to be less aggressive going forward, or if he's just going to double down and continue to do it. So we'll see if Sirianni keeps going for it. But 3-pack of Nuggets for you today, Mike. What a way to get back into the Nuggets and the swing of things. I'm happy to be back. Could have stayed in Tampa. Didn't do it, but maybe next time I will. Maybe next time.
All right, there you go. Nick's Nuggets here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Nick, we'll talk to you.
All right, Mike, talk to you.
All right, there's Nick Earnshaw, Nick's Nuggets. Don't forget his podcast. It's called The Shift. You can check that out on all podcasting platforms. And, of course, weekends in the locker room with Billy Schweim here on 97.3 ESPN. This hour of the show, it's been brought to you by Jersey Cow, a great place for the family to hang out and eat ice cream even in the fall and winter months. They're open year-round at Jersey Cow in Northfield and Brigantine. Noon to 10 is the hour, so stop by and check out the amazing fall flavors. They're bringing back some popular classics and introducing some future favorites as well. It's the best ice cream in the area. Northfield, Brigantine, Jersey Cal open every day all year round. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And coming up, one thought. Every game. All the games are in the books. What did Casey Joyner, the football scientist, see? And what does he think about decision-making from one Nick Sirianni? You know we'll get into it all next. One thought, every game on the Sports Bash.
Jersey. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
All right, 5 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform, at Mike Gill Show on YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Use the hashtag SB Live. One thought every game. Casey Joyner going to join us from The Athletic. Take a look back at week 3 in the NFL. You know, Casey, affectionately known as the football scientist. He likes analytics. He likes to dive into the percentages. Did he like the percentages that he saw from the Eagles in the decisions on Sunday? You know, one thing today, Kellen Moore said, look, it's normal that there would be somebody kind of interjecting some play calls. He's had it happen before in his time as a play caller in the past. So we take a look at that, and you kind of mix it all together and say, hey, the Eagles won a road game in New Orleans, really banged up. No Lane Johnson, no Mekhi Becton, no A.J. Brown, and then they lost Smith on the final drive, really, and won the game without 2 of their top 3 offensive weapons. It was a big game for Goddard. The defense stepped up. Casey Joyner is here from The Athletic with one thought on every game. But, of course, we need more thoughts on this Eagles-Saints game, because when we talked on Thursday, we were trying to figure out how they were going to slow this Saints team down. And really, their defense dominated the game, Casey. I think you could say if you're giving out a game ball, I know Goddard had a big day. I know Barkley had a big day. But if Casey Joyner is the head coach and he's got that game ball to hand out, you handing it to the defense or you going someone on the offense?
Defense. Absolutely. I think they came into the game of looking at a bunch of different things, a bunch of metrics and tape and stuff. And I think the Eagles came to the game and said, we need to stop Alvin Kamara. That's it. He's got to be, we stop him. Funnel this game through Carr. I know he's played really well. Funnel it through Carr. We're going to stop him. We're going to bring our secondary support down to stop him. We're going to do everything. Everything we do is going to be stop him first, stop the pass second. But don't get foolish against the pass. Don't give up foolish things doing it. Don't overplay for the run. But make sure we bottle him in place. And you start looking at what he did running wise. He's got a few gains here and there. I think he had 2 gains of greater than 10 yards, and they didn't. And his longest game was for, I think, 13 yards. It wasn't. He didn't have any breakaway runs. And it really slowed them down. And then you say, okay, well, now can the Saints beat you with Derek Carr? Yeah, okay, I like those odds a heck of a lot better than I do saying you can beat you with Alvin Kamara.
All right, so defensively, the Eagles kind of figure out a way to bottle them up. They finally got pressure, not from the edges. They didn't blitz a whole heck of a lot. Carter really was a game wrecker. He shows you what kind of difference maker he could be. So if they get that level of Carter, that's a big if every single week, but do you watch this defense and say, okay, there's some potential with this defense? Or is this still a defense that you think week to week will struggle?
They're learning the Fangio system. They're playing it a lot better. I'm looking at the numbers on True Media right now. Whenever the Eagles played any type of two-man shell or cover 2 shell, a 2 safety shell, cover 2, cover 4, cover 6. When they played that in this game, Carr goes 8 for 12, completes 2/3 of those passes, 63 yards, 5.3 yards per attempt. He's sacked once, no touchdowns. And the thing is, Chris Olave, 1 target, 1 reception, 9 yards. They threw to Kamara 3 times. That was who they really went to. Kamara, Mason Tipton, Jamal Williams, Cedric Wilson Jr. They accounted for nearly all of the targets when they were playing that kind of cover 2 shell. That was their way of saying, we're going to funnel things through, and we're going to make you go somewhere else. We're going to do cover 2 shell. We're taking away the deep stuff. We're going to rotate over to stop Olave.
Beat us to somebody else. We're gonna get up to stop the run. And if you decide to pass and take Olave away, now what can you do? And as we found out from the Saints, they don't have a lot of plan Bs if you start to slow down Kamara and Olave on offense.
Yeah, Shaheed was on my fantasy team and got me a 0. Thanks a lot. If they're having him on the bench for 2 weeks, popping 20s every single week. Casey Joyner from The Athletic. One thought every game. Obviously, their defense played a large part offensively. Before we get to the decisions, I know Casey, affectionately known as the football scientist, I want to see what you thought on the decisions, but why did the late game there, what did the Eagles, how were they able to get down and score without A.J. Brown and without Devonta Smith?
Honestly, when you're talking about it's first off, running the ball. Obviously, I mean, they can get the ball on the ground. That's a big part of who they are, and that's the thing. What's one of the things that impressed me about them throughout the whole game is that they said, "Hey, when we have to get down there, we have to. We're going to run the ball. We're going to go ahead and stick with it because you can't just run the ball when things are going well. You've got to run the ball when you don't stick with it." But on that drive, I mean, look at it. They've got on the scoring drive. The big thing is, I think they realized also. By the way, I just thought about this. I just remember this on the Goddard play. On the Goddard play, they're running the crossers. And what I loved about the play, the design of the play, is normally the big thing you have on offense, you run those crossers like that. They're designed to pick off the defensive player. That's what you're designed to do. And a lot of times the offensive players run too close to each other, and they can interrupt the other person, or they end up running into somebody. At the last second, the other player coming across from Goddard peeled up, and it's like the Saints did not expect that to happen. And I'm going to bet that's something that Eagles said, hey, let's do this. Let's get up there and peel up just a little bit because they're running a kind of trail technique. And when they do, their trail technique is going to cause them to run into each other. I think it's a very subtle, creative approach, something Kellen Moore did. And I think it's the sort of thing that's kind of what makes him a great is that when it comes time to situations like that, he could come up with something like that. You don't expect it to hit for that kind of gain, but to be able to say we can get Goddard open on this play because we know we can make this sort of play adjustment on this type of play where usually, again, you have the receivers run as close to each other as possible.
So that way they run well. But how about the offensive line in this game and what they were able to do for Barkley, who gets the big play? I mean, the week in Brazil, the big play was A.J. Brown, 60-plus yards. They had a big play from Barkley in this game, 60-plus yards. But the offensive line, again, the Eagles staple. They go behind that line when they needed it the most.
When the Saints, I was talking about how the Eagles were able to slow down the Saints because of different types of pass coverage schemes they used. The Saints tried everything they could to stop Barkley. They tried different coverage fronts. They tried different run-stopping fronts, and it didn't matter. Do we sell out to stop this thing and get there? No, but the problem they have with Barkley, in fact, the way the Eagles have been able to do over the years is that, okay, you come up and do you try and stop the run? If you sell out to make sure, so we're going to make sure Barkley only gains 5 yards. That's all. We're just going to make sure he gets maybe 4 or 5 yards. That's it. Or if he really does something well, maybe a 10-yard gain, and that's it. You sell out to stop that. You put everybody in the box. Or you try and sit back and say, okay, we're going to try and control the box. And if he goes ahead and gets a gain, we've got a couple people back there to go stop a breakaway run. They were trying too hard on many occasions to say, we've got to get downhill and stop this guy. And that's part of what happened on that breakaway run is, once he got through that first level, on that second level, the defender got a little out of the way. There's not a safety back there anymore. He's on the other side of the field. He tried to chase him down, but Barkley's too fast. So it's one of those things where if you're a defense, man, you got to protect the entire field against him. You can't just say, boy, we're going to play for cutback, things of that nature. You got to play for the whole field because with his vision and the way he can see things, if you try to overcommit, that's what's going to happen a lot this year.
All right, let's get into 4th down and 1. The ball is at about the 15-yard line. There's 14 seconds left in the half. Casey Joyner, they go tush-push formation, but they run a sweep. Kick the field goal, or do you like the element of surprise? I think they were trying. I think they thought they were going to score a touchdown on that particular play and try to catch them off guard. But do you take the 3? Down 3-0, 4th and 1. What happens if you get the first down? You call timeout. Then what? So give me your thoughts as that whole scenario is happening.
I reflect back to going back a few years, but Florida State did a similar play like that on the 4th down and 1 in the national championship game against Virginia Tech. And they faked like they were going to run it's a variation of what they call flip 9. They were going to flip over to the 9 hole. And it works if you can get the defense to overcommit to the inside. What bothers me, it's the play call itself, it's creative. I get that. What bothers me about that is if you've got to play with tush push and you still believe in the tush push and the tush push works as often as it does, Why? Why change? Unless you think it's not, the tush push is not working. And if you're telling the rest of the league, hey guys, by the way, we don't have a lot of faith in the tush push anymore. We're going to go and start doing other things instead. Oh boy, that changes the way defense tries to stop you on fourth down from here on out, because they'll play for those other plays on the outside too. Because frankly, the tush push, you don't need, you could still protect the edges and stop the tush push, because you're not going to have the edge. If you've got, you're 8 gaps wide on the offense, you're trying to push up the gut, you can just still play for the outside and stop that play if you want to. Because really, frankly, the ends on your defense are not going to help you stop the tush push in most plays. But I would be worried that the Eagles are saying, hey, we don't believe in the tush push without Kelsey like we did last year. We don't believe in the same way. If that's the case, that's a concern.
They went for it again on a 4th down and 3 at about the 39-yard line. It would have been, about a 50-yard field goal from that spot. They go for it. They get sacked. The analytics would say what? And do you like that decision?
Yeah, the thing about the Eagles is if they're going to, they believe in, you go for, you want to play, if you're going to play the percentages, like if you're going to play 21, you're going and you're supposed to hit on this and you're supposed to, you're supposed to stay on this. You need to play the whole thing through. You just do it on occasion. You don't cherry pick when you're going to do it and things. So, I'm okay with that. But I'm also if once this game started to trend as a low scoring game, at that point, okay, and you've got a really good kicker, go ahead and take some points and things. Once you think it's trending towards this nature and you're at that point where, all right, we know that this is not going to be a shootout game. If it's a shootout game, you don't be kicking field goals. You've got to go for the field goals. You got for touchdowns, But if you think this is going to be a low-scoring game, and it became clear pretty quick that's probably where this is trending, if I'm the Eagles, and maybe scale that back a little bit and say, hey, that's fine to go for it, but when it doesn't work and it puts you in a spot where maybe you could have put this game away earlier and you didn't.
Then they go for a 60-yard field goal at one point of the game. They're up 7-6 at that time. You punt the ball, or do you say, hey, I trust my kicker, let's go for a 60-yarder? Thoughts there?
It's indoors. If you think he could do it, we saw 65-yard field goal kick this weekend. I mean, do you trust it? Yeah, you're at the 42, but it's 4th and 11 too. So it's like, are you punting there? The thing is, you're up 7-6. It's a defensive game. It's not going to anything with Kamara. Carr doesn't look that good. You've been able to slow their offense down. I don't care if it's at the 20. If you only get 22 yards at the pump, pin them down to the 20 and make them drive. Because, they only they had to go 50 yards for their touchdown. That's it. I want to make them go 80 yards for their touchdown. Or again, if you've got good special teams, the Eagles have been pretty good on special teams from the first couple of games. They're one of the best teams in the league in that. If that's the case, go ahead and get it on the
They did get a punt blocked. They did get a punt blocked early.
Yeah.
You wonder if that entered their mind in that spot, but who knows? So those are 3 things. Sirianni's obviously getting lambasted here locally. So your thoughts on his decisions as a whole? Now, we just went over the 3. Last week's decisions against Atlanta, these 3, none of them really worked. So overall, how is the team looking at Sirianni making those decisions?
I wonder if Sirianni he's got, again, we've had this discussion before, that there are times when it seems like he wants to be a pass guy, even though he's got a run first team. You want to be a strong pass team and a good running. Bobby Bowden saying can't be a great passing team and a good running team, great running team, good passing team, can't be great at both. Which do you want to be? I think he still wants to try and be the great passing team, and he still wants to try and be too aggressive. He needs to. He seems to apply the same analytics and same sort of mindset to each game from a strategic sense or from a hey, let's go for it sense. I'd like to see him do more what Bill Parcells would do. And there were times in Bill Parcells, at one time, he had Drew Bledsoe throw 70 passes a game because he thought, hey, we're going to have to get in a shootout in this game. And he's also the guy who won Super Bowl 25. I'd like to see Sirianni go look towards that and then and take that type of Parcells Belichick approach, say, what's going to win today? Because sometimes I think they apply that go for it mentality and things. They apply it in situations where, maybe if you just played the percentages a little more instead of trying to push for the big percentage, I think you'd be better off.
All right, Casey Joyner here on the Sports Bash from The Athletic. Let's get into one thought. Every game, week 3, is now in the books. You go to the Giants and the Browns. Many people figured, all right, Cleveland at home, the Giants really struggling. And here come the Giants. They go on the road and find a way to win a game. Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary, and the G-Men win it 21-15.
The Browns had some injuries in their secondary, and it really cost them because they didn't have the depth they needed in their secondary. That was part of it. And right now, it comes down to, look, Deshaun Watson is if you put Deshaun Watson he doesn't have the running skills to operate the Ravens offense. If you put him in that sort of offense, you want to put him into an RPO offense. You want to make him that sort of player. That's what you want to do. That's not what Stefanski wants. Stefanski's a pro style, power run, go vertical type of team, and I just think that's a bad fit there. And it keeps showing up that, hey, personnel wise, this just is not working out for the Browns, and that's why a team like the Giants, who did not have as much talent, that's why they could beat them.
One thought every game: Green Bay with Malik Willis. He beats his old team. Will Levis continues to have some problems, but Willis says to the Tennessee Titans, "You picked me. You picked him. You should have kept me, not him."
That he did, and Levis, he's just incredibly turnover prone. They're going to have to replace him at some point. You just can't. You put him in the 1970s, you're making a couple of turnovers a game, you might be able to get away with it and stay out there. And in 2024, the way the NFL has changed as far as turnovers go, you can't do that. And think about it. LaFleur, what he's doing, he finds what Mills can do. He finds what his team can do in the ground game and such. He's an extremely creative problem solver, which is what you want of a head coach. He might be the best. Well, he's one top 5 head coach in the league.
One thought every game: Chicago, Indianapolis. You got the number 1 overall pick. You had a high drafted quarterback last year in Anthony Richardson. Williams threw for 363, but somehow that wasn't good enough.
It wasn't. And the Bears, you lose the game, but Williams threw for 363. That's what you got. Odunze, you got Kmet, Keenan Allen didn't play in this game, but you brought those people in. You got DJ Moore. You've got those players. You want to be able to go vertical. So you don't want to lose the game, but you like what they're doing. The Bears have a terrible offensive line, by the way. That's one of the big reasons they lose. And the Colts, hey, they know who they are. We're going to run the damn ball, and we got Taylor doing it, we got Richardson doing it. We're going to put the ball on the ground. That's who we are, and they stayed with their identity. And I think that's the thing. Chicago's still finding its identity. Indianapolis knows, and that's why they won.
All right, one thought every game. We'll go to Houston and Minnesota. Maybe the most surprising one of the week, 34-7. All right, Minnesota, they're better. You like them more, but 34-7. Sam Darnold, he watched all year last year in San Francisco, and now 34 points he puts up against Houston.
They're not asking him to be the savior, just saying play quarterback. And he was like Carolina; they were a terrible team. The Jets, he's just been in some bad situations. Minnesota, they've got a lot of offensive talent around him, and they've got an extremely good play caller there too. But Brian Flores right now is the story. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, they destroy San Francisco, and Purdy comes out after the game and says that's a fantastic scheme. He's just like amazed at how good it is, and Flores does the same thing to Houston. If he's shutting down these offenses, and those are some of the top offenses in the league, Houston's got Super Bowl potential.
One thought.
Minnesota's got Super Bowl.
Minnesota, 3-0 with Sam Darnold, right? I mean, the big thought was they got some skill guys. They don't have the quarterback. Well, if they have the quarterback, what are they? Possibly, they're 3-0, possibly a Super Bowl contender, says Casey Joyner. Let's go to the Chargers. They go to Pittsburgh, 2 defensive-minded teams, but Justin Fields makes enough plays. Harris has a big game, and Pittsburgh's defense wins out in the battle of these 2 defenses.
Pittsburgh is very good. And Pittsburgh gets in a situation where they always try to get you in a place where you've got to beat our personnel. We're not going to let you beat our scheme. You're going to have to beat our personnel. We're just going to make sure that we get in favorable situations, and we're not going to give you easy plays. You're going to have to drive on us, and that's a tough defense to drive on. Bill Belichick, by the way, just recently said that the Steelers are one of the best quarterback situations in the league because they have Fields and they have a strong veteran backup behind him. Belichick obviously knows a lot what he's talking about. He's a very smart guy. So, says something for the Steelers that they know what they have in Fields. They know what they want to be. You're 3 weeks into the season. A lot of teams like the Eagles are still figuring out exactly who they are. The Steelers had no doubt who they were coming into the season, and they knew they could do this sort of thing. But the Chargers, hey, if Herbert's hurt, this is what might happen to him against good teams.
Yeah, if that injury lingers, they're going to be in some trouble. One thought every game. We talked about Minnesota being a surprise. They were at home. Tampa was at home and got slaughtered by Denver. Bo Nix gets a win. Tampa's offense didn't show.
They didn't show, and that was, I do an MVP thing for an MVP article every week for Gambit.com, and my God, Baker Mayfield has been in the top 10 as far as NFL MVP odds. He was doing that well, but played Washington, and we'll talk about them in a minute. He played that defense, and that's why he looked that good. And Denver, Knicks, hey, they just, I think Tampa's offense is Tampa hasn't been going vertical because they don't want to put their secondary into a bind. Last year, I wrote for the Athletic this week. Baker Mayfield had some of the most. He was like third in league in vertical pass attempts. He's 29th in vertical attempts per game right now. I think the Bucs just need to understand you guys don't have the kind. You're not going to be able to protect that secondary. You got to get aggressive. You play conservative. This kind of things happen to you.
One thought every game. Casey Joyner from the Athletic. We continue on the Sunday slate. Carolina, Vegas. I mean, is this just an example of just put a capable NFL quarterback in there and Carolina might not be as bad as they showed?
It showed that. I think when my son came in after he saw that, he was like, my God, he said Young was the problem. That's the thing. It wasn't just that Young was the problem. It was that the entire team knows that you don't have a quarterback. If the defense thinks, hey, we just don't have a very good quarterback, it's hard for them to sell out and all that, and you start getting into bad situations, or suddenly you're down and you have to play a different style of defense. Once you know you're competitive and your offense can do something, your defense starts to play at a different level, and it affects you psychologically. Give Canales credit for what they did. And the Raiders, though, by the way, Antonio Pierce saying, yes, some of our players are making business decisions, and we as a coaching staff are going to start making some business decisions. I think it says a lot about the Raiders. Because after week 1, we thought that might be the case, and after week 3, it's like, there's problems in Las Vegas.
One thought every game. We'll go to Miami and Seattle. Tough read on Miami with the quarterback situation there. They only get 3, but 3-0 Seahawks.
Yeah, 3-0 Seahawks. And, Mike McDaniel's a really creative guy, but when you get Tim Boyle down to your third-string quarterback on the road against a good Seahawks defense, you're just not going to get much done. And, by the way, Seattle, 289 passing yards from Smith, and you got 91 from Charbonnet filling in for Walker. You got 104 from Metcalf. I mean, this is a team that can beat you a lot of ways on offense. Again, they've got a really good defense. I don't think they got a great defense, but they got a really good defense. This is a team that, if you say where they are right now, if you were starting the playoffs, you go, all right, they're divisional round, and wouldn't be surprised to see an upset to get to the conference championship if they got the right matchup.
Yeah, that Seattle team, very interesting, kind of quietly 3-0. They won that game on the road out at New England last week, and then this one they dominate the game against the Miami Dolphins. Who I don't know what's going to happen at quarterback with the Dolphins this week. I guess Skylar Thompson might be day to day here. We'll see. That one, that injury might be the biggest one in the league so far. Look at what happened to that offense. All right, Baltimore, Dallas. One thought every game. Baltimore's up 28-6. And then an onside kick in 2024. Dallas comes back, but they fall short.
That was a great kick. And mind you, goes right to Flowers, goes right through his hands. You got your hands team out there. He should be able to get it. But it was a great kick by Aubrey. He's probably, if not either here or Tucker, the best kicker in the league. Baltimore, they let up. That's a concern. They got ahead. They did exactly what they wanted to do. Power football. Derrick Henry, 151. We're going to just punch you right in the face with that, and they did. They did very well. But you got to finish games, and they didn't. And if you're Harbaugh, you are concerned. I think they'll be able to fix it. They've got enough vets in that team to be able to do it. But that's a problem for them, because when you get that far ahead, you should, especially when you've got Henry and you've got the kind of ground game that they have, you should be able to close that game out, and they didn't. So great for the Cowboys, almost make the comeback, but the Ravens got to get that problem figured out.
One thought every game. Tough one to read. San Francisco, a ton of injuries. L.A., a ton of injuries, but it's L.A. that gets the late field goal. Juwan Jennings' game gets kind of lost in the sauce, 175 yards, but the Rams knocked the Niners to 1-2.
They do. The Niners, that's just a ton of it. But again, the Rams have 11 guys on IR going in that game. That didn't include Cooper Kupp. So they're in a tough spot. Really creative play calling, and the Niners are inconsistent on defense. And when you have that offense, you can protect that defense. When you have the offense operating at full speed, mind you, I realize Jennings had a great game and all, but that's not. Again, the leading rusher is Williams at 89 yards. You got to be able to run the ball and control the game better than that. If the Niners have to get into shootouts like this, they're not going to fare well. They need to get ahead and then play with that lead and put their foot on the pedal. And that's just not what they're able to do right now, because they just have all those injuries.
All right, one thought every game as we go to Arizona. Detroit, kind of struggles along, but they find a way to win on the road against kind of a pesky Cardinals team.
Cardinals, well coached. Cardinals play hard. The Cardinals will fight you, and they got the pass to Harrison. But the thing is, I wrote a couple weeks ago that Harrison, and they got the terrible vertical numbers and said all this stuff. And mind you, he has the great game last week. Yeah, and he gets the game this week, but he gets the one big play, and that's it. They just don't have enough big plays otherwise. And Detroit basically said, we're going to take him out of the game after that, and they started funneling their passes elsewhere. So Arizona just needs more talent. Detroit has that depth of talent right now, and it showed up in this game. That's why they won.
All right, one thought every game. We go to Sunday Night Football, Kansas City. They keep finding ways. Atlanta, hey, what lost the game for Philly against Atlanta the week before, Atlanta did. They went for it on fourth down, didn't get it. Then had a chance to go again. They went for it, didn't get it. They had 6 points left on the board. They lost by 5.
Yeah, 6 points left on the board. They didn't go with Bijan Robinson at times, and they should have. The officials, we're Bengals fans in this house, so we're familiar with what it looks like to get some questionable calls for the Chiefs against your team, and it's exactly what happened in this game. Why that wasn't it was pass interference, it just wasn't flagged, and it should have been. It's not an excuse as to why the Falcons lose, but here's the thing. Big thing about Kansas City right now. I did an article for The Athletic on Monday looking back. Right now, Patrick Mahomes has had 8 straight games in fantasy with less than 20 points. You can angle that from an NFL perspective too. He's just, when it comes to his production levels, he's ranked 12th in points last year, points per game, 13th points per game fantasy. I'm not saying he's a mediocre quarterback by any stretch. He's not. Their passing game is not what it used to be. I think it's a lot because of Kelsey and all that. I think they're a run team. I think they're a big play off the run, and I think they're a defense team. That's who they were last year, and that's who they are again this year. You can still win a Super Bowl with it, but it's just a whole different approach that we're all not used to seeing out of Mahomes.
All right, let's go to Monday night. We had a doubled header on Monday night. They ran congruently, kind of one thought every game. Buffalo, this game was over at halftime. What's up with Jacksonville? And did we all underestimate Buffalo?
I underestimated their defense. They lost a lot of talent, and I thought, okay, I know they've got a good defensive coach, and they brought some people in, but man, it's going to take some time for that stuff to gel. No, it hasn't taken any time at all to gel, and that defense is as good as, maybe better than it was last year, which is saying something. And Hamlin having a great year so far. I mean, because Buffalo came into that game best in the league at fantasy points allowed on vertical passes, fantasy points per game, and they did just as well here. Jacksonville, Lawrence, you got questions now. Is he? How good is he? Where is he at? Because they won a game since week 12 of last year. He's just that the offense is not what it used to be. And I'm not saying they should be benching Trevor Lawrence, but you got to ask him at this point, hey, what is this guy? Is he, where is he? Is he top 10, top 15? Is he somebody who can bank on, or is it somebody we need to be thinking about moving?
One thought every game. Washington on the road knocks Cincinnati to 0-3.
I was working the live blog last night for The Athletic during the game, and when Washington was having no punts, I'm like, well, how often does Washington have no punts? They didn't have 8 punts last week either. It's the first time, the database for True Media goes back to 2000. First time they've had back-to-back games with no punts. It's only the 4th time since the 2000 season that Washington's had no punts in the game. That's how bad Cincinnati's defense is. They can't stop the run. They've defensive tackles were out and fine. Washington just, hey, we're going to run the ball, and it worked. And mind you, Jaden Daniels still has, he completed 92.4% of his passes, the best completion percentage in a game by a rookie quarterback ever. And so, I mean, the Bengals are going to have to get into shootouts all the time, but if their defense can't even force one punt, they're going to keep losing them. And they're going to play Carolina next week. I think Cincinnati might be an underdog there.
Well, underdog against Carolina, that would be big. All right, we'll have to keep an eye on that when you're back on Thursday for One Thought every game. And
I think they should be an underdog, maybe. Let's put it that way. It should be push them at least. If the point spread isn't that way, I'm going to be like, hey, that number's off.
All right, One Thought every game comes back on Thursday as we look at Week 4. That's our look back at Week 3. Casey Joyner from The Athletic right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Casey, we'll talk to you Thursday.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, One Thought every game is back on Thursday, and it's brought to you by Cooper University Healthcare. They're doing something extraordinary for families down the shore at Cooper University Healthcare. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And when we come back, it's today's Big Three. Dallas Goedert. What is his thoughts on Nick Sirianni, the aggressor? You'll hear it next.
Burrow, you're listening with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
On 97.3 ESPN.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform, at Mike Gill Show, on YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Use the hashtag SBLive. All right, 5:35. This hour brought to you by Key Acura of Atlantic City. A great car buying experience. Go see Rocco and The team at Key Acura Atlantic City, Tilton Road, Egg Harbor Township, your small but friendly dealer. Online, KeyAcuraAtlanticCity.com. I got my play of the day. It was a winner last night. I gave you Gesicki and Ertz with a pair of catches each, and they both went over that. They had at least three each. I saw Ertz have a big catch on that game-sealing drive there. As Ertz looks like he is still kind of being he's the ultimate security blanket for the young kid. And last night, Washington is the game that I've been talking about all offseason. That if that kid is the player and can do, and I talk a lot about these quarterbacks not being ready and then rushing out there. Daniels did not play overly well the first couple of games, but he wasn't horrendous. Last night, he took a step in the direction of, hey, this is why you play the young quarterback. Look, it's not all of them. Some can do it. Some can step in and play right away, and some can't. He last night had an awesome game, made some unbelievable throws. I was just like, wow, the throw he made on the touchdown, I think it was to McLaurin, the one that sealed the game. That was just an unbelievable throw. So, yeah, I look at them and wonder, are they a team? You heard the bite we played an hour ago from Chris Canty. Can they win the division? Well, that was the one team I said, if he is better than whatever quarterback they had last year, and if he's what Stroud was, like Stroud was in the MVP conversation for a while last year, or not a while, he put himself in the MVP race, and he kind of faded late. But if they got a player of that caliber, that Washington team, they're interesting. Definitely interesting. All right, let's get into today's big three.
Speaking of tight ends, Mike, let's get into Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert. He was a guest on the Pat McAfee show, and I got to give the boys in the McAfee show credit because they turned to Goddard and said, hey, man, look, a lot of people have been saying a lot of stuff about your head coach. They're not happy with him going for it on fourth down. They don't like some of his decision-making in these games. Well, this is what Dallas Goedert's reaction was to that question.
He's incredible. He's the same person every day. He brings energy. He wants the most and gets the most out of all the players. It's always tough to be a coach in Philadelphia. Even when you win, they want your head and don't think you're doing the right thing. But, we got all the faith in Sirianni. He's got all the faith in us, which is really cool. And that's why he goes for it on fourth down so much, because he trusts his players and we trust him.
Hey, where have you been hearing that? I've been saying all along, he trusts the players. Would you rather a coach who doesn't trust his players? Look, the conservative approach works sometimes, but I thought New Orleans lost the game because they were conservative. We've heard it a lot from people who have played the game. Colin Thompson's on our show every Thursday. He said, as a former player, I want the coach to put the trust in me. And so many of us want the coaches to coddle the players. So we want to blame the coach. This is why I think fans who blame coaches first are idiots. They just don't know the game. They think they know the game because they played it whenever they played it. These guys today want the coach to show trust in them. Do I love it as a football observer? Not necessarily, but I do understand the part of, coach, put a little faith in me, would you? Stop being so damn conservative. You heard what Dallas Goedert said there. I think that was a great answer, and I think he really laid it out of what they think about Nick Sirianni.
Some more from Dallas Goedert earlier today on the Pat McAfee show.
I think more so than the calls that he makes, we got to execute better as players and make sure we're able to get the job done in him because, like I said, he trusts us, and that makes you feel good as a player when the coach has that much faith in his guys.
Same thing. That much faith in the guys. We trust them. We want those plays. 4th down and 1. Coach, don't get the 3. Give me the 1, the 6. Now, listen, us as fans, we're saying, do the smart thing. Do the safe thing. Take the 3 points. It's a different game. It's a different era. And all these teams, you watched the game last night. You're watching the games on Sunday. Everybody's going for it.
Everyone goes for it now. Literally, it's every single game you watch. It's part of the league now. And like you said, Mike, I think there's a lot of people, they project the problem onto the coach. But as you said in the past, Mike, it's not they don't like the coach. They don't like the style of the game.
Yeah, you don't not like Sirianni. You don't like the game today. And as McMullen said earlier, it's an organizational philosophy. They hired Sirianni because they wanted a guy who was aggressive. They won a Super Bowl by being aggressive. They're going to make aggressive play calls, and we're not going to like them all the time. But we can't say the coach is costing them because, quite frankly, this is today's game, and this is what the organization wants their coach to do. And sounds like that's what the players want from their coach, too. Show some faith in us. I think the Saints players were saying on Sunday after the game, hey, coach, thanks for showing no faith in us. Right. That's why we lost.
Stephen A. Smith on First Take right before Pat McAfee had Dallas Goedert on. He gave his perspective on all of the Sirianni hate. Stephen A. Smith's perspective sounds a little like Dallas Goedert's.
The issue with Sirianni is his mouth. The opening his mouth and just saying things the way that he says it that has people scratching their head and saying, what the hell is wrong with this dude? He seems to have a screw loose. But when he's on the sideline coaching this football game, yeah, he could do better on some fourth down conversions, no doubt about it. But we've seen him give up the ball. We've seen him miss field goals. We've seen a plethora of things that transpire that don't have anything to do with coaching. It has everything to do with cats on the field normally doing their job, but under pressing circumstances, all of a sudden, mistakes happen.
Yeah, this is a big pet peeve of mine. I don't care. Like, I say this all the time. In Philly, we like personality over performance. We don't like Nick's personality for whatever reason. We think he's too immature sometimes, and that bothers people. I want to see what my W's and L's add up to at the end of the year. Do I get to compete for Super Bowls? Now, you might say, I know a lot of people out there think that the coach is holding them back, and maybe they're not. Do you respect the coach? I think the players have respect. At the point when they don't respect the coach, I'll let you know clearly that I think the coach lost the team. I think this group of guys like playing for Nick Sirianni. I think they like it. Now, I don't think Sirianni did himself any favors or didn't do the organization any favors by saying, I called the play. It was me. Blame me. Now, I see what he's trying to do, but he should have done that the week before.
Right. And if you, like Stephen A. Smith said, if you want to blame Sirianni for what comes out of his mouth, fine. But what's happening on the field is more important than what comes out of Sirianni's mouth at times. And that kind of gets to what Marcus Spears said on First Take this morning, Mike, because he said that there's a bigger problem the Eagles have than Nick Sirianni.
The turnovers are the reason why Philly is in some of these situations in games. And to your point, Stephen A., they one drop away from being 3-0. And look, Sirianni is unconventional. He's been unconventional since his first opening press conference being hired as the coach in Philly. And they went on to play in the Super Bowl. This team is still good. They've overcome turnovers, actually, from Jalen Hurts. But I don't think for 1 second that Sirianni doesn't at least bring something good enough to the table with the Philadelphia Eagles for them to continue to be in contention and be a really good football team.
The one thing he's mentioned about the turnovers, a lot of people, it's kind of all-encompassing because some people like to blame the coach for the turnovers as well.
Which is hilarious.
So Kellen Moore was asked about that today, and he basically squashed that. In fact, he said the turnover wasn't even Hurts' fault. He kind of insinuated that the receiver didn't really run the route the right way.
Which is, by the way, what Greg Olsen said during the broadcast. Greg Olsen brought up and said, in a situation like that, the receiver has to attack the ball. And that's usually a pass that would, I forget which, I think it was Clay Harbor I was listening to. Your guy Clay Harbor, Mike, and he was saying how, it's the receiver's job to attack the ball in the situation, not to let the other player get their hands on the ball first.
Yeah, Olsen insinuated that if A.J. Brown, it's a play that they normally run for A.J. Brown, right, that he kind of would have run through and possibly made the play. Who knows? I don't know. But I do know this. The fumble and the interception, that's a lot of turnovers that they're overcoming. They got to clean them up, though.
They absolutely do. And I listen, I think that moving forward, I'm curious to see, do they clean them up, Mike? Because we have one more game before the bye week. So we have one more game that we got to get through, that we are going to have a 4-game sample size to say, hey, are these turnovers just things that happened and mistakes that were made, or are these patterns moving forward?
I think we'll start to find out in terms of this week. You're going to see a lot of blitzes. I did see in the game, if you notice, after he fumbled the ball, he did a lot more with the two hands moving forward. I mean, these are things that that Jalen has to start being more cognizant of
Yes.
like getting chased from the backside and protecting the football there. These throws, when he's going one way and throwing across his body, you got to try to, people just think hey, that's the coach. Yes, you can try to do it in practice and muscle memory. But sometimes, man, in the competitive nature, when it just the game is on, it's happening in real time,
you fall back on.
Yeah, it's hard to sometimes get that out of you. You kind of default to it's like a crutch,
Yeah. Some guys, they just have defaults. And I think right now, Jalen needs to break those habits moving forward because guess what? He didn't have these problems in 2022.
The turnovers became a problem last year, and they're starting off as a problem this year.
Mike, that's a big three for today.
By the way, former Eagle defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, tricep tear, out for the season. Another injury for San Francisco. I said earlier this year, San Francisco, to me, had this weird feel about them with all the stuff that was going on there. You wonder if it's just that year for them, where the injuries, and it's just, we talked about this. I brought that stat up earlier about teams that went to the Super Bowl one year and how infrequently they make it back to the Super Bowl. Are the 49ers kind of going down that road where the Super Bowl last year, they just, and I don't know. I mean, the injuries, when are they going to start getting some of these guys back? When is Debo back? McCaffrey is going to Germany or something?
Yeah, he's going to see a specialist because apparently it's the tendonitis in his calf and Achilles is not healing properly.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, getting ready to wrap up tonight's show. We'll do it coming up next.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, 5:52, Sports Bash, time for the Bet365 play of the day. I had a couple winners for you yesterday. I hope you jumped on board. What was it, Ertz and Gesicki, right?
Yes, Ertz and Gesicki both were winners last night.
They both had over the receptions numbers, so that was a winner for you there.
By the way, I have you at 16-10 right now.
16-10?
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that. I like that number. I can keep going.
Is that because it's an even number? You like even numbers?
16-10. No, I want to do better than that. I want to keep on going. I'm going to keep riding the train that I've been making a lot of money on. For 16 straight games, Iglesias has a hit for the Mets, and I think he's going to go 17. That guy's on fire right now. So give me Iglesias with a base hit tonight for the Mets, as that's a game that you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. We got the Mets and the Braves. Listen to all the playoff Red October action. Phillies playoff baseball is coming to 97.3 ESPN. I like Iglesias tonight to get a hit. The other guy I'll go with, I usually like to give you two, just in case you want to do a little combo, a little parlay, make a little bit of extra money. I like Iglesias. He's got a hit in 16 straight games. The other guy I'm going to go with today, how about, give me Shohei Ohtani with a base hit tonight. He's got a hit in 6 straight games. The Dodgers are trying to, hold off the Phillies for the best record in the National League in baseball, actually. So Ohtani tonight with a base hit for the Dodgers, and that is our Bet365 play of the day. Dodgers are playing the Padres, by the way.
That's correct, sir.
This hour of the show is brought to you by Key Acura of Atlantic City. For a great car buying experience, go see Rocco and the team at Key Acura of Atlantic City. Chilton Road, Egg Harbor Township, your small but friendly dealer, online at KeyAcuraAtlanticCity.com. Thanks to Rocco and the team at Key Acura, as always, for supporting the Sports Bash. Thanks to everybody who listened. Thanks to everybody who watched out there today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Phillies tonight. Austin Hayes is back. He's in the lineup. He's hitting 6th in the lineup tonight. And, of course, we'll recap it all tomorrow on the Sports Bash. Game night's up next. Thanks to all my guests, Colin Thompson, Bob Wankel, John McMullen, Adam Kaplan, and Casey Joyner. Check him out on the YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show. Take care, everybody.